name is Max. My world is fire and blood.
Why are you hurting these people?
It's the oil, stupid.
Oil wars.
We are killing for gasoline.
The world is actually running out of water.
There's the water wars. Water wars.
Once, I was a cop, a road warrior searching for a righteous cause.
To the terminal freakout point.
Mankind has gone rogue, terrorizing itself.
Thermonuclear skirmish.
The earth is sour.
Our bones are poisoned.
We have become half-life.
As the world fell, each of us in our own way was broken. It was hard to know who was more crazy. Me or everyone else.
You're tall, but I'm standing in front of you.
It's a podcast.
Welcome to You're Tall, But I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends... Whoa, what the fuck did I just say?
It's,
Two friends.
do you not know the tagline yet?
It just came out weird. Welcome to You're Tall, But I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends circling the drain of academia, wandering the wasteland, examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
I'm Ethan.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. I feel like if we ever need to change taglines again, that it just came out weird. That'd be a good one. So there's an option. Good little use of the wasteland in there.
Yeah. And
Spoiler alert.
why are we talking about the wasteland, Ethan?
I mean, look around us, Devin.
Absolutely, right? So
Yeah.
we're talking about Mad Max this week, everybody. And it was not exactly intentional, but we're finding ourselves in a little like kind of unintentional apocalypse miniseries because we just did our episode on the Fallout games and TV show. And then we wanted to do an episode on another recent release, Furiosa, a Mad Max story, I believe it's called, which we'll be talking about in the second half of the episode. But especially
Is it really called a Mad Max story? Because that's like the thing that Disney
Oh, I'm
does
sorry.
with like
It's a Mad Max Saga,
okay.
which is not really
like
any better.
Solo, a Star Wars story. That's what they started doing when they wanted people
Yeah.
to watch
It's
those
my
movies.
theory that if they had just called this movie Furiosa, it would have actually made more money somehow.
Yeah.
Like it barely made any money, but we'll talk about that all later. But especially because we have just talked about the Fallout series, we thought this would be a good time not just to talk about Furiosa, but to talk about Mad Max as a whole.
And I'll just say, I think our next episode is in some ways a post-apocalyptic setting as well. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Why don't we tell people what it's going to be? We always keep it a secret, but so people can actually kind of prepare. But we're going to have Stephen Watts on to talk about Elden Ring in our next episode, just in time for the new DLC, which I think, has much different aesthetics compared to, Mad Max and Fallout. Obviously, Mad Max a huge influence on Fallout, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But all three of these, and thinking about the DLC, right, we have these three very post-apocalyptic, doomy works about kind of lone wanderers moving their way through decrepit, wastelandish worlds. And as the podcast about two friends who, circling the drain of academia, examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century, what could be more appropriate? And I think it's especially going to be interesting, I think, for us to try to figure out there's obviously a lot of similarities. What's different about these visions of apocalypse? What is unique about, we talked a lot about the ideology of Fallout and even the differing ideologies of the different Fallout games last episode. We can think about that with Mad Max as well. And then in the next episode, think about it with Elden Ring, right? Like, we obviously live in apocalyptic times. We live in doomy times, right? So in some ways, these artworks are reflecting that. But also, what do they have to say about it?
And I mean, I feel like perhaps, some of our other episodes too could also be post-apocalyptic. Like Rebel Moon is after the ideal fascist state has collapsed and now there's a new fascist state. And what is more post-apocalyptic than cruising? 1980s.
Well,
Al
I mean,
Pacino.
it is though, right? It's about that. It's that 70s vision of New York, right? As a sort of internal wasteland to the U.S. That was, being taken over by these terrifying gay people, right? So we're really, and we find ourselves, I think, dealing with these apocalyptic artworks very appropriately vacillating between two main time periods, right? Which is sort of the late 70s and the early 80s, the time of Fordism breaking down, giving way to neoliberalism, Ronald Reagan's ascent, and all the associated global political projects associated with that, and our contemporary world in which two geriatric genocidaires compete for who gets to be in charge of a decaying nuclear empire.
Things look bright for the future.
Absolutely. So maybe we could try to equip ourselves with some tools for how to approach what's coming with these films. I
can't think of anyone better to do that than you and I.
Absolutely. I barely even know how to drive, let alone get an
That's
engine
true.
started.
In this version of the apocalypse, you are fucked. It's the one version of the apocalypse. Yeah, it's the one version where you actually are fucked. Yeah, your character, like, there's the gyro captain. Like, yours would be like the cyclist. You still have like the pre-war outfit. You've got a really wacky helmet, but you can ride real fast on that bike.
Yeah, and then I just get run down almost immediately. But. So in the first half, we're going to talk a bit about Mad Max in general, and particularly the original Mad Max films, before the revival with Mad Max Fury Road and now Furiosa. But I think we're especially going to talk about the second film, The Road Warrior. But before we zoom in on The Road Warrior specifically, Ethan, what was your, coming into this episode, what was your relationship with Mad Max? Did you grow up with Mad Max? When did it get on your radar?
Yeah, so people take for granted, I think, the post-apocalyptic vision, this dystopian future that George Miller essentially created. The problem is growing up, being born in the late 80s, and so a lot of the media I'm consuming is in the 90s as a young kid. It almost feels cliche to me at that point. So I'm like, we've got this apocalyptic. You've got all these a lot of leather going on, a lot of people with mohawks. So I feel like I, as a kid, wasn't a huge fan of that sort of genre because it felt so like this is what everything that tries to be post-apocalyptic does. Before, I guess maybe like The Matrix changed that. Like we actually like spiced it up a bit in the late 90s.
Yeah. Well, in The Matrix building on cyberpunk, but yeah.
Sure.
Especially in film, right?
Yeah, but it's there's almost, to me, Mad Max, I think of Wes, and Wes, that like a version of that character I feel just appeared in every random post-apocalyptic US like Hollywood film in the 90s.
He's in like the leather,
and it just made me think of like
would fit in Cruising, actually.
Yeah, but it just made me think of like Hillary Clinton talking about super predators, or where they're like, this super violence that's gonna be happening. It's the end of, look at all these crazy people out there, and it just felt gross to me, and it was just, I don't know, I had weird vibes about it. But then, I saw some of the original. I never saw the original film, the original Mad Max, but I had seen Mad Max 2, and I had seen Beyond Thunderdome as a young lad, and they were fine. I was like, oh, this is dope. It's fun as a kid to watch those films. And then, of course, Fury Road was a blast as well. So I don't have like a huge connection to the franchise. I loved Fallout, as I blathered on about in our last episode, which you can't have Fallout without Mad Max, but I was never a huge Mad Max sort of dude. And the aesthetic, I feel like I had some hangups with it early on. But what about you, Devin?
Yeah, I mean, same here. I didn't grow up with the Mad Max movies. I think I grew up with a lot of art influenced by the Mad Max movies, including Fallout, right? And I think that's sort of the problem, right? As you said, like, Mad Max is everywhere. And if Mad Max is everywhere, then you go back to the original and you're kind of like, it seems cliche, even though it's like one of the most radically inventive franchises of all time, right?
Yeah.
But it has become so influential, at least in terms of like visual aesthetics and styling, for what post-apocalyptic worlds look like. Like, not just Fallout, right? But the game Borderlands? There's what looks like a shitty movie coming out or came out based on that. But, whenever we kind of see the depiction of a post-apocalyptic deserty world, it's riffing on Mad Max usually. And that, despite being someone who was really into nuclear bombs in culture, as a kid, I was more into them in like kind of the Metal Gear Solid way, the like espionage and intrigue. The post-apocalyptic world didn't seem, I think, that relevant to me. And I think this is partially because I was growing up in the 90s, right? Where the imminent threat of nuclear disaster was not something that felt as palpable as it did even in the 80s, right? With Reagan kind of re-escalating the Cold War tensions and Star Wars, the weapons program, not the not the films.
What if Reagan tried to do like Ewoks too? I
mean, isn't that what the Iran-Contra affair was about?
Yeah.
He probably like watched Return of the Jedi. I was like, yes, those are our brave Contra soldiers fighting the evil, government that has the support of the people. And so Mad Max didn't really get on my radar until Fury Road. Well, so I will say I watched the original Mad Max film some point years ago. I did not like it, and I still don't like that movie. It is an origin story, and I think a kind of boring and slow one. And we can maybe talk about that when we turn to Furiosa, which is also an origin story. But Fury Road was a revelation, right? And it actually took me a couple viewings to really fully appreciate Fury Road, but I very quickly went to it from like, this is a good movie, and an original movie, to what's become the consensus opinion that is like, this is one of the greatest action movies of all time. And every time I watch it, it seems better. Yeah. And I also think as a more sophisticated viewer, I have become a lot more interested in the cultural specificity of Mad Max because it's so influential. It's easy just to be like, oh, this is the post-apocalyptic thing. But the Australianness of Mad Max is really interesting to me, right? So much of it, and so much of its aesthetic comes out of the natural Australian landscape and what it happens to look like. But I'm also really interested in the particularity of like nuclear anxiety in Australia.
Interesting.
And I think Australia is kind of in an interesting position globally during the Cold War. There's also a novel called On the Beach from '57 that's it's a British writer who had emigrated to Australia, writing about like kind of, it's a much more it's a realist novel, but about sort of people living in Australia after nuclear war has wiped out pretty much everywhere else. And I think, they have this interesting perspective on the nuclear issue because they are part of the quote unquote first world in Cold World terminology.
Yeah.
But they are geographically located in an area that is otherwise inhabited by what we would today call the global south.
And I mean, you have interesting historical situations, like the UK actually had their first nuclear test in Australia. Things like
exactly,
that.
Yeah. So it's like this combination of like, I think just the settler Australian perspective on these issues is interesting and is historically and politically distinct from like the American or the European or even the Soviet perspective on these issues, right? Because it's like they feel a certain, like, we're part of this, right? We're part of this imperial machinery, but we're also kind of in a marginal geographical position. We are like a wilderness, right? We are a wilderness outpost. And so I've found myself becoming increasingly interested in them. And the last couple weeks, I watched Road Warrior for the first time. I watched Beyond Thunderdome for the first time. I went and saw Furiosa in the theater. And then I watched Road Warrior again. And liked Road Warrior even more the second time. Like, I was not even a week later, but I don't think it like fully clicked for me. I sometimes think like these films take me a couple watches because they're so visual and there's so much going on that like it helps to kind of know what's going to happen, so you can the second time track the kind of Rube Goldberg machine of all the the cars moving around the second time and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which definitely happened to me with Fury Road too, right? The first time I watched it, I was kind of like, this is a little incomprehensible. But yeah, I find myself I'm very pro Mad Max these days.
I mean, all I had to hear when I heard Fury Road was coming out is that this had the same director, the same writer, the same producer as Babe, Pig in the City. And I was bought in. Now, was it exactly?
You're kidding? But
you don't know that George Miller also wrote Babe and Babe, Pig in the City?
Oh, I know. I just thought you were being like ironic, like as if Babe doesn't slap.
Oh no, Babe slaps.
Oh,
but
okay.
I like to imagine that Babe is within the Mad Max universe, which, is even...
I'll tell you what it is, dude. I've watched all of them in the last like week.
All the Babes.
At least all the Mad Max ones. At least 3 or 4 of them have pigs in them. Road Warrior definitely has pigs. Beyond Thunderdome, pigs are like really important because the whole thing in Beyond Thunderdome is that they use pig shit as an energy source. And there is, and he also created Happy Feet, which is about the penguins. But there is kind of a unifying vision of like an interest in ecology, an interest in systems and the climatological repercussions of imperialism, of capitalism and whatnot, right? So it's both insane that the three franchises that George Miller created are Mad Max, Babe, and Happy Feet. And it also, like, it's one of the more consistent auteurist visions of a director working today, I think.
Yeah, there's, I think, more going on there than people maybe give it credit for.
Yeah. Well, and I also wonder, we'll talk about this when we get to Furiosa, but based on Furiosa's box office performance, I wonder if the average viewer even knows who George Miller is. I don't know if the average viewer realizes that Mad Max, despite being a big franchise with 5 movies, has had the same director for all 5 films, which is not something that most or any other franchises of its scale can say. Oh, shit. You've just brought something to my attention. Ethan, do you want to describe to the listeners what you just dropped in the chat?
In my searching of the internet across these different directors, including Ridley Scott, I came across important information that they are, in fact, they have already filmed Gladiator 2.
Yeah. November 22nd, 2024. So everyone gets to go home for Thanksgiving. And if you have a boomer dad of a certain disposition, you can go see Gladiator 2 with him. So let's as much as I want to talk about Gladiator 2, let's maybe zoom in a little onto Mad Max 2, released in the U.S. as The Road Warrior. And this is really important, I think, right? Because, like, the thing about Mad Max that I think is part of what makes it a little bit of a weird franchise, right, is Star Wars is like a saga, right? When it's weird that, you know, Furiosa calls itself a saga, right? But, like, you have to watch those films in order, right? One happens after the other. Mad Max is not that kind of storytelling generally.
Right.
It is a situation, right? You've got the first Mad Max, which like kind of explains who Mel Gibson was and what happened to him and how he became mad. And then you've just got a series of films that George Miller has said take place in no particular continuity that follow the exploits of this legendary figure throughout this apocalyptic wasteland, right? And it's like a mythic form of storytelling. It's not like sequential storytelling. So you don't really need to know anything to understand Mad Max 2. And you get, and as a result, because Mad Max wasn't really a big movie in the US, it was just kind of released as The Road Warrior. And it just has this little intro just being like, here's Max Rakatansky, here's his deal, and then we just get down to business, right?
Yeah, it's much like the introduction to Rebel Moon Part 2, where they say, hey, here's some things that happened before this film, and it ends up being like, oh, that was a whole other film that they're mentioning.
Yeah, and basically, you know, who cares about that backstory? The important thing is that things have gone to shit, right? And we never see the actual fall in the Mad Max movies, right? It's always a little unclear, like, how long has it even been since there was something we would recognize as civilization, right?
Yeah.
Because people have, like, deteriorated, right? Physically, mentally, resources are scarce, and the most important thing in the world is gasoline, right? Because for whatever reason, this future apocalypse is very car based. And the most important thing is to have a vehicle, to have gas, and to kick ass at it. And Mad Max is the best at this, right?
And this is something that Kathy Hochul instinctively understands, in something that no other politician is quite able to grasp. So I bet that she's watched all the Mad Max films.
Yeah, well, that's actually something I'd like to talk about, right? Because it seems like Mad Max could be a series, right, that like Fast and the Furious style is hagiography for the car and the power of the car. But what do you feel like the politics of the car are in these movies? So maybe just to say very briefly what happens in Road Warrior.
Sure.
Max finds some people who've got some gas. There are bad guys surrounding them. He helps them. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But it all culminates in a huge car chase, which kind of is a prelude to Mad Max Fury Road, which was kind of asked the question like, like Jerry Seinfeld asked, if the best part of the movie is the car chase, what if you just made the entire movie out of the car chase? And specifically, they're dealing with Lord Humongous, but who Lord Humongous is doesn't really matter. He's a dude. He's evil. He wants the gas. Mad Max helps them, not necessarily because he's a great person. He's originally just kind of out for it for himself, but then he eventually decides, like, okay, yeah, I should help them out. And a bunch of people die, but a bunch of people get away, and then they drive off. But so this could be a film that's like about how awesome cars are, right? It's a world in which cars are important. Mechanics are really important. Knowledge of cars is valuable. But what do you end up feeling like the movies are actually saying about cars?
Yeah, it's interesting because cars are very important in the specific subset of culture that is predominant within the Mad Max stories, which is this. You have like these roaming gangs of, I don't know, crazy people that are going around causing a scene, killing people, generally hoarding resources and killing from who they can to secure said resources. And to those people, the car is extremely important. But I feel like on the periphery of all of this, I feel like there are hints that other people have just gone beyond that, and we don't even see them because they want nothing to do with this. And those are the people that are actually doing the best that they can do with the post-apocalypse, as opposed to these car-oriented gangs that are constantly just killing each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the way you were describing these roaming gangs, right? I think they're really in the tradition of, they're not like the kind of things we see in Fallout with like the Brotherhood of Steel, necessarily. They're kind of similar to like the Raiders, maybe. But the thing about the Mad Max world is that everything is so fucking spread out. And I think this is one of the things that Miller's vision of the apocalypse really tunes into, which is that part of what the nuclear apocalypse does is it takes a world that has this really advanced technology that developed alongside communications technology and like information technology and logistics and coordination, right? Like if you look at like the history of trains, right? Trains were able to go faster than they went for a while. Like physically, the engines could make the trains go faster, but they couldn't go that fast until the telegraph was invented. Because once the telegraph was invented, you could coordinate so that the trains didn't like fucking hit each other, right? And so like, you know, you can't cleanly separate these things. But in the post-apocalypse, information works very differently. And I think this is also part of why the films take on this like myth form, because there isn't reliable history, right? There aren't facts in the apocalyptic wasteland. What the fuck is a fact, right? Like who said what? How, you know, what are your primary sources, right? There's just like people saw some shit and things became myth and it spread around, and who knows how contorted it got, right? By the time it's getting to you. And whenever you're watching a Mad Max movie, right? Like Mad Max 2 is framed as being told to you by this old man who you later find out is like this feral child with a boomerang, like a sharp boomerang that can kill people, who grows up and then tells the story. So we're not actually seeing what really happened, right? We're seeing a story. And so this is a world in which like information has been cut off, but this high technology still exists in like a decayed form. And so what are the roaming gangs, right? They're much less like anything like the Brotherhood of Steel or even anything in our contemporary world, as much as they are to me like 18th, 19th century bandits and highwaymen and pirates, right? Because it's just like, this is a world in which there is space that you have to move through, in which you are in the fucking dark, right? Like in the 18th century, trying to like sail across the ocean, right? Or whatnot. So there is this large amount of empty space in which you can't communicate with anybody, in which there can be these now automobiled or motorcycled bandits who just exist to destroy you, right? And this is also a force that prevents civilization from reasserting itself because these different communes can't like link up, right? Yeah. So the road is a space of chaos in George Miller's vision, right? It isn't really a place of transportation. It's a place of war, right? Wars are fought on the road. He's the road warrior, right? Furiosa drives a war rig. And I think that's part of what, like, these films are really about, how fucking terrifying cars are, right? And the fact that, like, we are actually driving every day, those of us who drive, which doesn't include me, on what are essentially the future battlegrounds of a war that we may actually already be fighting, right? Because our act of, like, commuting to work every day is contributing to the battle against the planet that will eventually create the apocalyptic conditions that then the Mad Max films are about.
Yeah, it's a great point in that I feel like when I often hear Mad Max talked about, there is this separation of the veneration of gasoline and the cars and the whole setting with why the apocalypse happened, which is unclear, but certainly seems to revolve around resource scarcity, especially in terms of oil and water. And so often it seems like those two themes of Mad Max are divorced when it's really like, no, I don't think George Miller accidentally just stumbled into both of those. These are actually intertwined.
Yeah. I think that's so well said, right? Because like we don't know literally what happened, right? We don't have a film like, which it would be like that Patton Oswalt joke about the Star Wars prequels, which we'll talk about prequel problems later, right? But where he's like, "Oh, you like Angelina Jolie? Well, here's John Voight's ball sack," right? Or like, you like ice cream? Here's like rock salt and milk or whatever the fuck, right? And so, like, I don't really give a shit what the like events, the specific events in this fictional universe that didn't happen were that led to this specific situation. He's giving us all the answers, right? What caused this world? Well, we see it's a world that's obsessed with gasoline, that's obsessed with fossil fuel resources that are going to be scarce. And we see that it's obsessed with machinery and vehicles and means of death dealing, right? Like, what are the two places besides the Citadel in Fury Road? The Bullet Farm and Gas Town, right? It's about gas and bullets. That's why we live in a world that revolves around gas and bullets. And it's capital that keeps those things together, right? But when capitalism collapses under itself, Miller's imagining, well, when capitalism collapses, the gas and the bullets are still lying around, right? And whatever new world forms in capitalism's death throes will be forged with gas and bullets.
Yeah, it's not a nice, neat, oh, capitalism's falling. We should all just collectively seize the means of production and achieve a better life. No, it's like, no. And I think the thing is interesting is a lot of the antagonists in these films, like Humongous, Immortan Joe, they're framed as essentially, there's a lot of clues that they are essentially like military people, former military. And so it is kind of the death throes of that class, of which their whole purpose is to maintain the power structures of capital.
Yeah.
Kind of be like, well, I don't have a boss anymore, so I'm going to just keep doing the thing that I know how to do. And that's the problem in every one of these stories.
Right. Yeah, no, they're residual, right? Like the military might not exist anymore, but like, what do you think if like the military was abolished tomorrow, right? Magically, like with a genie, right? There's all those dudes are still around, right? And like, I mean, we live in a world where we see what happens. We have people like Eric Prince, right? Like that when they no longer serve a sort of role in a state military project, right? Find ways via capitalism to still do what they're doing, right? Do what they want to do. And now he's a podcaster, right? So,
is he? Jesus.
Yeah, I believe it's called like Off the Leash or something. So if you don't want pussy ass takes like we have here on our podcast, go check out Eric Prince's. But Ethan, maybe we can zoom in on the Road Warrior a little more specifically. We're talking, I think, about the big themes and stuff, but what did you, just on like a kind of a filmmaking level, on a watching level, what did you think of the Road Warrior?
It was great. It was 90 minutes. It was clean, just hooked you right in, kept you going. I mean, that's just my overarching opinion. Is I had a great time. I understood watching it why it was able to set off this kind of universe. So
yeah,
big fan. What about you, Devin?
Yeah, no, like I said, I watched it twice in like a week, right? And the first time I enjoyed it, but I think I was kind of at like 3.5 out of 5 with it. I was like, this is very good. I think something that's hard with the early Mad Max films is it's so hard not to compare them to Fury Road, which just, the technology's at a level where it can just be doing things they can't. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I was telling you before you watched The Road Warrior, I was going to be like, it's like all one big car chase. And then I was watching it for the second time, and I was like, the car chase doesn't start until, like, there's 20 minutes left. But it's so good that actually made me realize how good the movie was. Where I was like, I thought this was all one big car chase, like Fury Road kind of is. Although Fury Road has some slower moments, because I rewatched that, too, the other day. But it's tight as a drum, sort of. But it's also, like, it's a post-apocalyptic drum, right? It's one that's cobbled together.
And it's so real where you're watching it like, how did they film this without people getting horrifically injured? And then you read the Wikipedia, you're like, okay. So yeah, it really
I think the classic line about the Mad Max movies is like you come out of them and you're like, how did everyone not die? Right? But it's just like, what I love about it is just this. George Miller has generally no interest in telling you how the sausage gets made. He just like gives you the sausage, right? And it's like, this is a world. Like, there's Wes and the younger blonde bandit that gets killed by the feral child with the boomerang. And, like, Wes is devastated after that death. And it's like, we don't really know what the nature of their relationship is. And, like, you can look on Mad Max Wikipedia and find out. But you don't need to know. You're just like, you don't need to know why Lord Humongous is wearing a hockey mask and has these, like, burns on the back of his head, right?
Yeah.
And there's explanations for that. There's both, like, plot explanations and there's, like, production explanations, because they were originally going to have Lord Humongous be revealed to be Max's partner from the original film, and then they were like, that's stupid, let's not do that, because he like dies via fire. But the world is lived in. We're coming into a ready-made world.
Yeah, to me it is the anti Zack Snyder, who always has to
absolutely
tell you by showing you and showing you by telling you, and it doesn't do either of those.
If Zack Snyder directed this film, we would get to the point where Mad Max at the end, like, because it's like, they're trying to, the people in this film are trying to get their gas out and past the bandits. That's the whole thing. They have a bunch of gas, but they can't go anywhere, because if they try to leave, they just they will get bandited up. And they need someone to drive the tanker. And eventually Mel Gibson shows up and he's like, I'll drive the tanker. But imagine if instead he had been like, but before I do that, there's a few things you should know about me. And then, like, we got all these flashbacks to Mad Max 1. And then, like, Papa Jello or whatever, Papagayo, the head of the oil refinery, was like, thank you for telling me that. I would now like to tell you something. And then we got those same backstories for Warrior Woman and the mechanic and everybody, right?
Yeah.
And you would be bored as fuck.
Yeah, it would have been one of the coolest things is at the end, the tanker spills over and it's filled with sand. It would have, like, when that happened, it would have immediately been like the Raiders looking and be like, oh my goodness, they filled it with sand instead of gasoline.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? The tanker is like a decoy.
Yeah,
the gasoline's actually elsewhere, which rules because but you don't know that the entire time you're watching it, right?
No.
So you're fully invested. And this is the other thing Zack Snyder would have done before the action sequence even happened. It would be like, now here's the plan for tomorrow. Like, we're going to fill this tanker with sand. And then I would be watching it just being like, well, who actually gives a fuck what happens to this tanker? Instead, I'm fully invested in the tanker until the last minute, where then I have the same experience the bandits have, where I'm like, fuck.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So, anything else we want to hit with Road Warrior before we put on the pants, Ethan?
I took some notes throughout this, but I wish I could show you the different notes I have, because a succession of them, well, it starts with, dang, they really blew up the set. That's when you know that things are getting, but then every one that follows begins with, damn. Every one of my comments, damn, great jump scare with the Mohawk guy. Damn, it was all sand in the tanker. damn, the gyro captain is fucking invincible. Damn, fucking
the
baller
gyro
ending.
captain. We should talk about the gyro captain, right? Because the gyro captain rules. Because this film also, like, it's so much about the road, but it does ask the question, like, what if somebody could fly? And the answer is, like, they're unstoppable, basically. Like, they exist in 3 dimensions in a 2-dimensional space, and it fucking rules.
Yeah.
Love the gyro captain. And I love that it's not an actual helicopter. Like, it's not a fucking, like, Apache helicopter. It's, like, a weird... Like, he just looks like he's sitting in a seat with a propeller on top of it.
Yes. So that's, I don't really have anything else to say except that everyone should go watch. It's 90 minutes.
And it's on Max right now. Max, the place you go for Mad Max. They've got all of them right now. But it rules. And it's 96 minutes, and you come out just being like, you're refreshed. You're ready to seize the day. You know? Like, cinema these days, you go to the theater, you come out, you're like, what day is it? Like, I need a massage. Come out of Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, being ready to, like, you know, I am going to finish that job application. Yeah. I've got the whole day ahead of me.
Yeah, this will be the one. 2 things I will say to close it out is, 1, they shouldn't have killed the dog.
Okay, yeah, that is my least favorite part of the movie is that they killed the dog, which I assume I think it was kind of a cowardly decision, to be honest.
I think they had to do the final scene of, like, we can't do it with the dog, so we're gonna kill him off screen and just. But you know, I don't care for that.
He was adopted by one of the camera operators, though.
So good that let's just assume.
So that dog, actually, I will say that dog was going to be euthanized, and they saved it from a shelter. It was not like a actor dog; it was a shelter dog that they trained just to be in the movie, and then one of the people working on the movie adopted it. So
That's
you're allowed
awesome.
to kill the dog in that case.
Okay,
like
fine. Kill the dog in the movie because it sounds like overall great story. The second thing I'll say that maybe we can circle back to is the sense I got from this film is. Well, a couple things. One, there's much more of a sense of precariousness of everything than you get, I feel, in Fury Road and Furiosa, where it's like, oh wow, this can all fall apart at any moment. Everyone's just dead. But also, you get more of a sense of, oh, the apocalypse just happened pretty recently, didn't it? Whereas the later films almost feel like we are in a new world. This is a whole new set of rules, whereas in Road Warrior, it's kind of like you got some people who are like, "Hey, remember when it wasn't the apocalypse?"
Yeah, it does feel like it almost feels like they're in separate universes to me, right?
Yeah,
it's like Fury Road and Furiosa. It's like there's lore, there's more lore, whereas like the original Mad Max movies, it's just like who knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah,
and that'll be interesting to talk about more when we dig into Furiosa.
Yeah.
And we're back. My roommates are speculating about whether Russia is going to nuke Ukraine. But we don't need to talk about that. Instead, it is time for us to hear the voice of the people. And by the voice of the people, I mean play a game that has nothing to do with the voice of the people. So we are joined for the remainder of the show by Catie Denham. Catie, say hi.
Hello.
You all know Catie if you've listened to any of many episodes. So Katie's going to be joining us for our discussion in the second half about Furiosa, but I thought it would be fun if she if we pitted the husband and the wife against each other here in Vox Populi. So
wow.
Usually this is your game, Ethan.
Yeah.
But I've decided to take charge this week as the person who's seen all the Mad Max movies.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried that you won't be quite as even-handed as I am, but go on.
I couldn't possibly be less even-handed than you.
See, that's a warning sign right there.
So what we will be doing today is similar to our Fallout game, similar to our Star Wars game. We're dealing with a franchise, a lot of which takes place in the desert, that, as we've talked about in the first half of the show, has this very lived-in quality, right? There are a lot of characters. The characters have names. The characters often have details and backstories that don't like actually show up in the films themselves, right? And so we are going to be wading into, I hesitate to call it the expanded Mad Max universe, because Mad Max doesn't actually have like these like extra properties much besides a few comics. But we will be going into some of the lore of Mad Max today and seeing what you guys can, if you guys can distinguish the real from the fake in this regard, among other things. So in what is becoming, yes, go ahead.
The fake from the legend is
exactly, yes, the canon from the legend.
Wait, hold on. Do y'all play this game often?
It's based on things we've done before, but it's just like trivia questions. You don't need to like know anything special to play.
Okay. I don't listen to the podcast, so.
Yeah, no, it's just like it's based on other stuff we've done in the past, but I'm gonna explain everything. So we're gonna have multiple rounds today of questions.
I just want to say, Catie listens to the podcast in the sense that after we're done recording, Devin, I'll go out there and she'll be like, "Heard y'all talking about Demolition Man. What do y'all think about Wesley Snipes?" And that's like that's the extent to which she does listen to the podcast. Only
Hold on. I get the live version. I don't need the edited. I don't need the like cut. I get it raw, baby. I get it raw.
Listen, if Catie was spending her spare time not spent around you, listening to you talk to me for 2 hours and 45 minutes about some shitty movie, I would be questioning Catie's judgment. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give Catie a point right off the bat for good judgment. That's the good judgment point for Catie. All right, now let's get into round one. Ethan, you are going to start at -1 because you have a podcast. That's poor judgment. All right.
That's fair. That's actually fair.
So, round one, we are going to be doing something we've done before on the show, which is, this is a universe with lots of characters, and so I have 3 questions for you that are all going to follow the same format, and then the 4th question is a little different. But you are going to try to pick out which of these names is not a character in any of the Mad Max films.
Wow.
So let's begin. Question 1. Which of these is not a Mad Max character? The choices are Toe Jam, the Autoboss, Rizdale Pell, and Chum Bucket.
The Autoboss.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, sorry.
I guess we're is that,
right,
is
Catie,
that how we're...
Katie has the Autoboss.
Okay, well, because it feels too like on the nose. I feel like for a film that is all about like the subtlety of like the backstory, it's like the Autoboss, obviously. I also know I would say like 80% sure that Toe Jam is an actual character. And what was it,
Rizdale Pell?
Riz Pell. Yeah, Rizdale Pell. That's an amazing name and it should be in it. So that's my reasoning. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm also very competitive. And so
Good. We liked it. We like this competitive spirit.
Yeah.
Ethan, what about you?
This is going to be a boring start, but I'm going to agree with Catie for this first one, that the Autoboss, because I feel like because the thing you need to remember about Mad Max is it's very Australian. And I just feel like the Autoboss just feels too American to me. Like that's something I'd see in Fallout. Toe Jam, though, because you look at it like, what the fuck does that have to do with cars? But you could see like an Aussie be like, oh, look at that Toe Jam there. Like it just sort of makes sense. Riz, I don't know Rizdale Pell. That almost sounds Star Warsy to me, so I could see it being Rizdale Pell. But Riz sounds very Australian to me. And Chum Bucket, I think I've heard of Chum Bucket. I think that is an actual character that I do remember. So I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong and it was Rizdale Pell, because that sounds a bit Star Warsy, but also a bit like Aussie Star Wars. Like that's, I can see like them being like, oh no, I'm Rizdale Pell. Like I could see that. So I'm gonna go with the Autobots for this first one, even though Catie immediately jumped on it. But I could see it being the Rizdale Pell.
All right. Well, you are both right. It is the Autobots. So my thinking here was
too much, because it's like, like the Autobots distills what Mad Max is so well in a way that I feel like George Miller wouldn't do that. He'd call someone like, the auto fuck. He'd call someone like the auto cunt, maybe something like that.
Right. What do we know what movies, like which movies those are from?
Yeah, so Toe Jam was in Furiosa. He's like one of those bikers at the beginning.
Yes. Don't recall.
I would have to look up the others because I did this like all at once. Rizdale Pell is the guy with only one eye. He's also in Furiosa.
Oh.
The one of Chris Hemsworth's people that...
Yeah, he also plays Immortan Joe in the film.
And Chum Bucket is a mechanic in like the video game, I think.
Oh, really?
So here was this is what I was trying to do with Autobots, and it clearly didn't work. There's a character at Furiosa called the Octoboss, and I was hoping that one of you misheard the Australian accents and would think, oh, I know Autoboss is one because he was just in Furiosa. Because he is one of the few characters that they regularly say, like the guy's like, I don't work for you, I work for the Octoboss. And I thought, like, maybe you will think he said Autoboss. Because he wears, like, fucking horns. He isn't exactly his parachute looks like an octopus. But...
that's the thing. The thing where you got me with my multimodal reading of Furiosa is that scene with the octopus tendrils is so vivid. So you underestimated how good of a director George Miller is that I immediately
it's all the visual storytelling.
You don't even need to say his name, Octoboss. I would be like, oh, that's obviously the Octoboss, because look at that.
Devin, you underestimated how many young adult Australian films and shows I grew up on, like H2O.
Oh, so you're locked into the accent.
Oh, shit.
You're locked into the accent.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well, let's try this again. So question 2, same rules, different choices. Which of these is not a Mad Max character? May Swayze, Toast the Knowing, Digger, and the Knight Rider.
Wow.
I have mine.
Catie, go ahead.
I'm gonna say the Knight Rider because Toast the Knowing was played by Zoe. It was in Road. It was in like Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, she was played by Zoe Kravitz. Digger, I'm pretty sure I've heard that name before. May Swayze, that could be the trick one that you think that we have misheard it. But I think that May Swayze is a real one. The one I'm 100% about is Toast the Knowing. I know that that's a name. But the Knight Rider just sounds stupid. Like, here's the thing, is that Mad Max, like their characters are like very, the names are like, show, right? They're like show names in terms of like, they got their names for a reason. Like Digger probably dug shit, and like Toast the Knowing is like philosophical. So like the Knight Rider, that just sounds so stupid. They can do better.
Wow.
All right. So we've got Catie for the Knight Rider. Ethan, what about you?
If it is, so I also thought it was the Knight Rider, which if it is, I love that Catie is in essence shitting on your choice of fake name. But I can't. I was gonna go with Knight Rider, but I can't. Just given that Catie also said it this time, so I need to differentiate myself because I feel like Knight Rider would say like, well, if it was Aussies, I feel like they call it like the Dusk Rider, something slightly different than Knight Rider. Sounds too American. May Swayze is out there in left field, but I feel like would you put one in there that just doesn't vibe with any of the other ones? That doesn't seem like that's the way you would be going. Toast the Knowing is so incredible that I've got to give it to George Miller, and apparently Catie says that is locked in, so that's great. So Digger, I feel I could very easily see some tertiary character being called that, but I'm gonna go with that one.
All right, so let me go through these. Let me do this a little more like Ethan does again, and like eliminate the choices gradually, right? So first off, you both clocked Toast the Knowing is a real character. It is one of the 5 wives from Mad Max Fury Road, played by Zoe Kravitz. So that was not an answer. You were also both correct that May Swayze is not the answer. May Swayze is the owner of a farm in the first Mad Max film.
Oh, of course.
Very minor character, I think. So that leaves it down to your 2 choices. Digger and the Knight Rider. One of you is right. Only 2 enter the Thunderdome. Only 1 can leave. And I am sorry to say that the Knight Rider is the character in the original Mad Max. Is a also known as Crawford Montezano. But the Knight Rider was a member of a motorcycle gang in the original Mad Max, and Digger is completely made up.
Wow!
See, this is where you see that the bumbling of the Autoboss was actually the bumbling of a fox. Because
I knew it.
I was just trying to set up. I was like, I need to make it seem like,
yeah.
And I fell right into it.
Thank you, Catie, for being so quick on the trigger to say the Knight Rider, because I just didn't want to say the same thing as you. So that served me well. Well done, Devin. I was not so sure about that, but
hold on. Are you sure that Digger is not a character?
Let's double check. That would sure be egg on my face. Nope. We are coming up with there's a vehicle in the video game called the Buzzards. That is what comes up when you try to look up a digger, because I guess that serves the function of digging.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, we don't have a character named Digger. Unfortunately. All right, question 3. Same deal. Which of these characters is not a character in the Mad Max universe? The characters are Dung Loathsome, Mr. Skyfish, Smeg, and Dr. Dealgood.
So these are really good, Devin. Because I'm not sure which one is the correct answer. I'm going to say, I think it's either Mr. Skyfish or Dr. Dealgood. I'm going to say Mr. Skyfish, because neither of those are things that I feel are particularly relevant in the post-apocalypse. Either the sky, other than the gyrocopter, or fish, which we're in the middle of the outback. Maybe this is someone who's from the bountiful place and that's why that is their name, because they represent everything that is not Mad Max. But it seems the most different. Dr. Dealgood is like, well, who's a doctor these days? But I could see them just calling someone Dr. Dealgood, who's not really a doctor. Dung Loathsome is great, so I kind of just want to hope that that's a real character. Smeg, I feel like I recall in watching The Road Warrior, Lord Humongous mentioning like a Schmegma character. And from 7th grade health class, I know what that is. So I want to say that's an actual character. So I'm going to go with Mr. Skyfish.
All right, Mr. Skyfish for Ethan. Katie, what about you?
I'm like 80% certain that Smeg is a character. Dr. Dealgood, I
It's almost too good.
it's right, like Dr. Dealgood, Dr. Dealgood, because it's like I think that if I were in the apocalypse, I would want to be. I could if I could do. I could be a doctor now. I could call myself a doctor, Dr. Dealgood. The deal is so good. It's self-explanatory.
And
honestly.
and the way that Aussies say like doctor is like is very fun. Dr. Dealgood. Doctor. Dr. Dealgood. Dr. Dealgood.
How do Ozzy say it?
Dr. Dealgood.
Splitting image.
Oh my god. I feel like I'm in
Is
Sydney.
Chris Hemsworth on the line?
My goodness. I think Mr. Skyfish. See, Ethan says that he doesn't think that that is something that like they in the apocalypse that are like pretty central or like front of mind. And I like to think of it as Dr. Skyfish is actually it's what they want to be. So that's what I think that Mr. Skyfish, Smeg, and Dr. Dealgood are real characters. Dung Loathsome is too good it's bad.
All right. So we have Katie with Dung Loathsome, and we have Ethan with Mr. Skyfish. Ethan currently at 0 points in the aggregate, and
Wow.
Katie currently at 2 points in the aggregate, including our.
Why would I wait? Well, hold up. We both got one correct. I got another
wait.
one correct. You mean I have 1 point, right? Because you took one away
I'm
preemptively.
sorry. You have one. You have one.
Thank you.
And Katie has two. In the aggregate, with the you did lose a point for having a podcast. And Katie gained a point for not having a podcast. And I really should give 2 points, one for not having a podcast and one for not listening to our podcast. But I'll keep it to one for now. So
she gets -1 though for then being on our podcast. So
that's true. So it evens out to a +1. All right. So let's go through these. So first off, you are both correct that Smeg is a character. Smeg was also in Furiosa. He's the guy in Dementus's gang who is kind of like when Dementus is talking, he like does sort of sign language, like he like waves his hands around a lot and like accentuates what Dementus is doing, and is one of the people that is like he's the first person that Furiosa chases, thinking it's Chris Hemsworth at the end. So that's Smeg. He's also a brand of like overpriced appliances. If you've ever seen like a Smeg toaster or anything. Yeah. I don't know if that's what the name comes from or anything. The other one neither of you picked was Dr. Dealgood, and indeed Dr. Dealgood is also a character. He is a in Bartertown in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Dr. Dealgood. The deal's good.
One of the big things that happens in the post-apocalypse, right, much as what happens like before the rise of liberal humanism, is the tradition of people calling themselves doctors who shouldn't be. And as a doctor of English literature, I completely agree with this practice.
Dr. Daniels, I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. So it comes down to Dung Loathsome and Mr. Skyfish. So one of you is getting a point here, and one of you is not. And the thing about Dung Loathsome, which I think you both described selectively quoting as too good, is that it is. I made up Dung Loathsome. And I appreciate the compliment, but Mr. Skyfish is a oddly young character. He's one of the children in like that Mad Max kind of runs in with in Beyond Thunderdome, and they worship a plane. Is sort of like their religion. So I believe he has kind of like conceived of the plane as a skyfish, as it were.
Yeah.
So, last question of round one. So it's the same idea, but it's a little different. We're not dealing with a character here, but we're dealing with Lord Humongous's gang in Road Warrior.
Ooh.
So the Lord Humongous's gang in Road Warrior has multiple kind of like regimens, castes, if you will, like sections, right, that have different names, right, based on their jobs. And so the question is not which of these is not a character, but which of these is not a cast of warriors in Lord Humongous's gang. And the choices are Smegma Crazies, Jism Lancers, and Gay Boy Berserkers.
I'm locked in. I feel like Catie is also locked in.
All right. Catie, let's have you go first this time.
Well, okay, first of all, I will tell you which one is an actual job. And well, I think we're choosing the one that's not the actual cast.
So two of these are in the movie and one of them is made up.
Well, I think that Smegma Crazies is a cast because Smeg has come up multiple times. I also don't necessarily think that jizz is like vernacular, like Australian vernacular, but it's Pride Month, baby. Gay Boy Berserkers has to be on the board. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jism Lancers is not an actual one.
All right, we've got Catie with Jism Lancers. Ethan, what about you?
I hate to be boring, but I know what's right and wrong, and Jism Lancers is not one of the things because I specifically remember this scene from having watched Road Warrior where he is calling out his various factions and he mentions this is why when you said Schmeg, I thought this was what you're referring to, but he mentions Schmegma Crazies and he mentions the Gay Boy Berserkers. I explicitly remember both of those, which means Jism Lancers locked in. We're done. That's not correct.
All right. Well, you both get a point here. I made up Jism Lancers. Consider my position. You're sitting here with Smegma Crazies and Gay Boy Berserkers, and you're like, well, I can't go more homophobic than Gay Boy Berserkers. But unfortunately, Ethan, you mentioning the hearing Smeg into, kind of, put a lot of Smeg into the air. So, maybe a bad job by me having Smeg in the previous answer, but yeah. But I will say, I think Jism Lancers, I think there's maybe, George Miller consider it. I think there's a place for the Jism Lancers in the Mad Max universe.
I'm sorry, who are the Smegma Crazies? What is their role?
I don't know what they do at all.
Smegma is, but I don't want to know what a Smegma Crazy entails. Maybe it's best left unsaid, as in most things with Mad Max.
I couldn't possibly start to figure this out. Okay, they drive the dune buggies and wear the animal skins.
Okay.
The Gay Boy Berserkers are the kind of like the people who kind of look like evil village people. Like they're like kind of in like cop leather and they have like spiky masks. Those are the Gay Boy Berserkers. So what I'm basically getting is that the Smegma Crazies are military and the Gay Boy Berserkers are police. Is sort of the vibe I'm getting. And this is the thing, the Jism Lancers are just out to have a good time. So, in addition to having a lot of lore, something that George Miller likes to do in the Mad Max films is to cast the same actor multiple times. And not necessarily to play the same character.
Right.
So, the following 4 questions are all about actors that have been in the series multiple times. And so you need to tell me which of these characters is not played by the actor.
Okay.
So which of the following characters was not played by Bruce Spence? And the choices are the Gyro Captain, Jedediah, and Mudguts.
Ethan, I think that you know the answer to this.
Do I?
I like You absolutely do know. So I will go first because I don't know. So I'm gonna go with Mudguts. I don't think that he played Mudguts. I don't know who any of these people are. I have heard of Jedediah. I don't know who that is.
Have you though? Have you?
Wait, hold on, stop. Is that is that
Sorry,
Tom Hardy?
Withdrawn.
No, that's not Tom Hardy. Mel Gibson? Who is Jedediah? Oh, well, based upon this, like, I'm gonna say Jedediah. He didn't play Jedediah.
Okay, so Catie is saying Jedediah. Ethan, what about you?
Mudguts is the wrong one. The gyro captain was from Mad Max Road Warrior. Jedediah is from Beyond the Thunderdome.
So
I'm sorry, but Bruce Spence is awesome. So I like of all the people, I'm gonna definitely that's the fucking voice of Sauron.
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna know his guys.
all right,
He
so
was
we're
in
gonna go
Star
ahead and
Wars,
cross
or
out
that-
the bonus question.
No bullshit. This
turns out.
Oh shit! Did I know? Was that the
bonus question was going to be about like what other roles has Bruce Spence played? So I can't ask it after you literally said what they are.
No, I shouldn't have said anything.
So for that, we're going to deduct a point from Ethan. No. We're not going to do that. But unfortunately, Catie, you did have the right answer. It was Mudguts, and then you were talked into changing it to Jedediah. So what's great about Bruce Spence is that he plays the gyro captain who pilots the gyro in Road Warrior. And then he, looking identically, with almost no time having passed, wearing the same costume, plays Jedediah, the, like, plane pilot in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, with no explanation. Mudguts is simply a member of Toe Cutter's gang in the first Mad Max. So... Ethan, you are making your charge here. It's now 4-3.
Well, Bruce Spence is the only one I think I could do that for. So
okay. Well, trust me. Yes.
Ethan told me that 2 days ago.
You gotta trust your instincts.
He told me about Bruce, and he said, he shows up again. In the same costume.
Well, the remaining actors here, I think, are less well known than Bruce Spence. So I think maybe there's room for Catie to grow her lead here. Because I just do want to remind everyone that Catie is currently ahead 4-3. So which of the following characters was not played by Hugh Keys Byrne? And the choices are Immortan Joe, Slake Mathurst, and Toe Cutter.
Are you locked in, Catie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the answer here is Slake Mathurst, because Toe Cutter is the original villain from the original Mad Max, and he came back to play the main villain in Fury Road, and he's fucking like boss in... Well, I haven't actually seen the original Mad Max, but he's certainly boss as Immortan Joe. In the sequel, he's like, I gotta do this last film before I die. I need to do Fury Road before I call it quits. And so I'm locked in with Slake Mathurst.
All right. So Ethan is saying Slake Mathurst, and Catie, what about you?
You know what? I have no shame in saying and going with Ethan. But here's the thing: is that I also have played games with Ethan before, so it wouldn't surprise me if he bombed himself so that I would choose the incorrect answer and then try to take over the next turn. So I'm still gonna go with Slake Mathurst though. Slake Mathurst. Slake whatever Ethan chose is what I'm choosing.
Sort of sounds like she wasn't locked in, is what I'm hearing. But
yeah, Catie, were you locked in? Make sure you're locking in. But we both get points here. Slake Mathurst is good.
It was just your entire reasoning was based on what I said after you were supposed to be locked in, is all.
Well, what does locked in mean? What do we?
So we have 2 more questions in this round. Which of the following was not played by everyone's favorite actor, Tim Burns. We know him, we love him, Tim Burns. And I will say, unlike some of the questions in the Fallout game, don't look these people up to see what they look like, because they mostly have been in Mad Max movies. So, which of the following characters was not played by Tim Burns? The choices are Johnny the Boy, Hungry Eyes, and the Golden Youth.
I'm gonna go with Hungry Eyes.
So I was going to go with Hungry Eyes. That's what I was locked in on. But given that Catie didn't give any explanation, but she didn't give any explanation about why she chose it, and I'd like to be different and go with the Golden Youth as just to give a different answer than Catie. I feel like that's fair, given that she didn't explain why she chose Hungry Eyes at all.
I mean,
I'll go with Hungry Eyes if you want, but I figured this would be a way to give a different answer.
Well, okay, I can share.
Yeah, but that's the part of the point of locking in is so that you can't play this kind of game theory, right? Like you got to pick your answer first.
Then Hungry Eyes is what it was. I'll tell you why I chose it is because Johnny the Boy and the Golden Youth are both similar, and I feel like from the previous responses that you've done, that you're not gonna make an answer that's like the same thing but different. You would just make a different third answer, and so that's why Hungry Eyes to me is like it's in a league of its own. And so I'm like, well, maybe he did that, whereas maybe George Miller's like, oh, you want to come back and play the Golden Youth this time? You know, you did Johnny the Boy in the first movie. You want to come back and do the Golden Youth? I could see that being a conversation that happened in a way where maybe Hungry Eyes isn't as likely. So that's why I said Hungry Eyes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you both guessed Hungry Eyes. So first, let's address Johnny the Boy, whom he does play in the original Mad Max film. Another member of Toe Cutter's gang, Johnny the Boy. And so then the question is, when did, after him being in the original film, when did George Miller decide to bring Tim Burns back into the franchise? And you might have thought he did that right away and had him play the Golden Youth in Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, the character who is killed by the feral child's boomerang. And you would be wrong, because he played Hungry Eyes in Furiosa, a character that I cannot figure out who was. He is in the credits. I have Googled it. There are no images available because this movie is still in theaters, but there is a character apparently in Furiosa called Hungry Eyes. So Tim Burns was in the first Mad Max. He was in the most recent Mad Max. And I also believe he's done like some cinematography or other like kind of like things in other films. But I did manage to trick you both here. And so you're maintaining the 5-4 lead.
Now I understand why you wouldn't let me say the Golden Youth. Now it all makes sense.
I want to maintain that I would be very strict about locking in your answers, regardless of what the results of that change being.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know.
We do have to lock in the answers, and I think we have a long precedence of, for one, being really serious about locking in the answers, and for two, really coming hard down on people in terms of points when they're questioning the. Oh, you found it. So
I found it.
There he is.
Yeah.
I don't remember this guy.
It's one of the early guys who was guarding young Furiosa, and he just gets wrecked.
Got it. Yeah. So Johnny the Boy coming back for a cameo in Furiosa. All right. We've got one more question in this round, and I want to again just remind everyone we've got to lock our answers in, and we cannot change our answers once they are locked in. So which of the following was not a character played by Josh Hellman? This is Josh Hellman. I'm sending you a photo to the chat. Don't Google him. This is definitely the best photo of him available on the internet. As you can see, that's exactly what he looks like. He enjoys sitting in the grass. and being a little blurry. And which of the following characters was not played by Josh Hellman? Sprog, Slit, or Scrotus? Ethan, what is your answer?
My answer is Slit.
Slit, and why?
Well, I know he plays Scrotus.
Scrotus, one of the sons in Furiosa.
Yeah, and Sprog,
not in Fury Road. Interestingly, he's like a new son.
Yeah, he's introduced in the video game, I think, actually.
Oh, cool.
And Sprog sounds very Australian, so I'm gonna go with Slit.
Got it. So Ethan is down for Slit. Catie, what about you?
Well, I knew it wasn't Scrotus. I am gonna go with Sprog.
So you are both right that Josh Hellman played Scrotus in the most recent film Furiosa. He was also in, as I think you might guess based on his age, Mad Max Fury Road. He plays the Lancer for, I believe the character's name is Nux, the war boy that ends up joining the cause. He's played by, what's that guy's name? Nicholas Hoult, right?
Oh, yeah.
So his Lancer, who they're originally on the car together, and then obviously Nux takes a different path, also has a monosyllabic name starting with S, and the name of that character is Slit. So
bullshit.
Catie will be getting a point
bullshit.
Here. Sprog is a character. Sprog is the name of Mad Max's son from the first Mad Max film. It is a completely normal thing to name your son.
It's just really sad how George Miller fell off. He was good. He had Mad Max. He came up with great names, and then he just blew it all away. By the time we get to fucking Fury Road, we've got Slit. And it's like, let's be real here, George.
Listen, they can't all be winners. They can't all be winners. Right?
Yeah, surely.
And maybe
Speaking
your mistake.
Of they can't all be winners.
Maybe your mistake was thinking that. Yeah. And anyways, we're at the end of round 2. And speaking of they can't all be winners, Catie is up 6-4 on Ethan, who I just want to remind everyone has seen these films and studied them specifically to prepare for the podcast. So we are now entering our final round. And this round's really exciting because we're out, for the most part. There's a couple multiple choice left, but we've got some questions that aren't multiple choice. And so there's real opportunities here for creativity, and there's opportunities, I think, for people to really separate themselves and accrue multiple points. So there are 4 points on the board for the following question. And so this one, I am going to have to ask you to write your answers down or like type them in some way, because there are multiple you're going to have to keep track of. The question is, we're going more into like background lore here in the final round. So the questions are, what were the jobs of the following Mad Max characters before the fall, before society crumbled into apocalypse completely? So the last time these people had what we would recognize as jobs, what were they? And the characters are Max Rockatansky, the People Eater, Immortan Joe, and Papagallo. And I will remind you who some of these characters are. So let me just get all the names in the chat for you. So Max Rockatansky, I think everybody knows who that is, the protagonist of the series, played by Mel Gibson in the original films, played by Tom Hardy in Mad Max Fury Road. So what was Max Rockatansky's job? The People Eater in Mad Max Fury Road is the head of Gastown. And then we also see him in Furiosa, not yet the head of Gastown, but we see like Gastown in disarray and the idea that he will become the head of Gastown going forward. He's that guy that has like the exposed nipples that he's always like touching, and the gold thing over his nose and the giant foot. So that's the People Leader. Immortan Joe is, of course, the main villain of Mad Max Fury Road with the white hair, and also shows up in Furiosa as the head of the Citadel. And Papagallo is the blonde guy that you thought looked like Basil from Austin Powers. Ethan, you mentioned to me when we were on break. He is this blonde fellow who is head of this like commune in Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. He's kind of the initial leader of the commune. And of course, he dies during the big chase sequence at the end, and very justifiably, the gyro captain, who is not even a part of the commune before, becomes their new leader, because everyone's just like, we like the cut of your jib, man. We don't know what it is. You're irresistible. So what were the jobs of these four characters before the fall of civilization? Ethan, let's start with you. What was the job of Max Rakitansky before the fall?
We don't talk about this enough, but he was a fucking cop. And, you know, maybe that complicates the narrative of Mad Max, that who's able to actually survive in the post-apocalyptic world? A fucking highway patrolman? That's right. My answer. He's a cop.
So we have Ethan saying Max was a police officer, a highway patrolman. Katie, what about you?
Truck driver.
Any particular reasoning there, or
that's what he does?
He drives a truck, and he's honestly, I don't think that he's super creative. So
Max Rakitansky, this is the one person we do see doing his job in the films. If you see Mad Max 1, he is a police officer. He is a highway patrolman. He famously wants to quit the police, and then they literally bribe him to continue being a police officer by giving him that sick-ass car that he then uses in all the other movies. But then his family are killed, and he goes crazy, and he becomes Mad Max. So does ACAB include Max Rakitansky? Hard to say. Katie, you're close here, because Max Rakitansky is demonstrably a truck driver. He drives a truck very effectively in Mad Max Fury Road, but I think that is his post-fall job, right? He learned how to be a truck driver under Chuck Schumer's plan for the apocalypse.
What is a highway patrolman if not a driver of the truck of capitalism?
Here's the thing. I think that he was an aspirational truck driver, okay? I think that he looked at those people driving by him every day, and he said, I wish I could do that. And that's probably what his application was before, you know, he was like, I'm leaving the force to go be a truck driver. And then they said, but here's the car. And then he said, hold up.
This is the thing. If we made sure that there was a better social safety net, Max probably would have been a truck driver, and his family would probably still be alive.
Yep.
But unfortunately, ACAB, but Ethan does get the point here, creeping up. It's now 6-5. Next up, we had the People Eater, though. The People Eater, in the last two Mad Max films, obviously dies in Fury Road, but we saw some of his origins in Furiosa. Katie, what do you think the People Eater was before the fall?
I believe he was the Monopoly maker. No, I actually just think that he was a local politician. And when I say local politician, like, I mean like local. Like, he probably got 20 votes and that was enough to win. So I think he he has the suit. I think that suit is like a suit that he has been wearing for a very long time. But within the being a local politician, I think that before, what do we say? Before the fall? Before the, what is?
Before, like, we never actually see it, but whenever the apocalypse happened, right?
Okay. Pre-apocalyptic. The pre-apocalypse, I think he was about to be taken down. I think he was embroiled in sex crimes. And he was probably being blackmailed by one of the many people that he took advantage of. As he should be, honestly, because, like, that's gross. Sex, I don't yuck anybody's yum, but, like, sex crimes against people.
I think we can yuck sex criminals yum. I think
that's a yum that I think we can yuck.
Okay.
Ethan, what about you?
Well, I see the People Eater. I see him every day on the television set. This is Matthew Miller. This is the Joe Biden State Department spokesperson.
Interesting.
Locked in, done.
You both went with politics. Ethan, you went a little more specific.
I want to be clear, I am right. Like, even if George Miller doesn't specify this, but do go on.
So, according to my research, the People Eater was a banker. And
the Monopoly Man.
I have to give the point to Catie here.
Really?
For bringing up the Monopoly Man, who, if the Monopoly Man isn't a banker, I don't know who is.
But have you listened to Matthew Miller? Have you listened to his briefings?
No. He has a monocle, Ethan.
I'm just looking up to this, and it says that he was a management analyst. This is Matthew Miller, for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. No, that was his mom. Sorry. But I don't think he was ever a banker, Mr. Matthew Miller. Whereas the Monopoly Man is like arguably the banker. And I even think the other things that Catie is saying, I think are possible because we don't have the full backstory on the People Eater. And I think it's very possible he was a banker that was moving into politics. I think it's highly likely he was a sex criminal. The one thing I know he wasn't is he was not working for Joe Biden, because the one thing I know about the People Eater is the People Eater is Australian. So I'm sorry, Ethan, but I think you shot a little too high there. It's now 7-5.
The People Eater actually, in his defense, did come out against the genocide in Gaza very early on. So that's fair. That's apologies to the People Eater.
Not to make it too serious, but one of the most fucked up things of Mad Max is thinking about how, the Mad Max folks would actually probably, the average Mad Max character probably has a better opinion about that than any member of Joe Biden's presidential cabinet. So again, Ethan, I think a little unrealistic in thinking about the depths that the People Eater would sink to.
I just saw the name the People Eater and I assumed, and that's my bad. Apologies.
Absolutely, it's an easy mistake to make. Next up, we have a Morton Joe, the big bad of Fury Road, and kind of a big bad in Furiosa also. Ethan, what do you think a Morton Joe was before the fall?
He was like a soldier. He was like special forces.
Soldiers, any particular reasoning?
Because I am aware of that being the case.
Interesting. Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he does have the medals on his chest piece that he wears, but that could be stolen valor. We aren't sure about that. Catie, what do you think?
I think he was an assistant manager at Kmart.
Ooh.
He had middle management written all over him.
Absolutely.
Well, that was the problem, though. That was the problem in the pre-apocalyptic world, that someone with that sort of potential was stuck in the special forces instead of being middleman. And that was what he always aspired to. And let's be clear, man, he dominated post-apocalypse with management skills.
Yeah. Again, I think Catie here is tapping into the essence of what this person's calling was. Like, Max Rockatansky just wants to be a truck driver, but there's no pension, right? A Morton Joe should be just like doing logistics, right? But instead, unfortunately, he was an officer in the Australian Army. So the point does go to Ethan.
But again, go figure, when time comes for him to actually go be a soldier in Fury Road, he immediately gets his face ripped off. Like, he was meant to be a manager.
Rules.
This is the problem with capitalism.
He's untouchable in Furiosa because he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna go out there and just like fucking fuck my shit up in a war.
Yeah.
I'm a water supply guy. But yeah, he was actually a officer in the Australian Army, and that's actually how he comes across this aquafire system. We actually have a bit of backstory for him.
See, I just thought he was a cosplayer.
Yeah, no, I think, I actually like Catie, your lore better. I think that would be more interesting if someone, because if anyone's seen The Postman, the guy that's in charge of the evil army, the Postman was he sold copiers before the apocalypse. But no, Morton Joe was a soldier, and so the point does have to go to Ethan here. But I love the creativity from Catie, and I really think Catie is Catie should be in charge of the Department of Labor right now, because Catie is seeing what people should be doing, and the issue is not making everyone be a coder. It's making jobs like assistant manager and truck driver actually like, you know, pay well and have good benefits. That's the problem. And that's how you avoid the apocalypse, and you avoid being in charge, or having a Australian special forces officer be in charge of you, rather. Unfortunately, not the case. And so finally, it's now 7-6, so anybody's game. We have Papagallo. Papagallo, the leader of the commune of sorts that we see in Road Warrior. Catie, what do you think, Papagallo? You said you were very struck by his photo when you looked it up.
Yeah. He's obviously a cult leader.
He looks like Michael York, right, Catie? Like he looks like Basil Exposition from Austin Powers.
Is he blonde?
Yes, actually.
I can kind of see where you're going with that. Yeah, they have like similar, like their noses are in a similar place on their face.
Can I just ask something, though? Ethan, do you think people know the name of the actor that plays Basil Exposition? Because you just go around asking people about Michael York all the time.
I don't know who that is.
Why?
I know who Basil Exposition is. I don't know who Michael York is.
Well, I feel like that's entirely your fault. He was in many Shakespearean films.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, he was in the Three Musketeers as D'Artagnan. I mean, there's that. He fucking was John the Baptist in Jesus of Nazareth.
Cult leader.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
cult leader energy. And to be clear, this is not the actor that played Papagallo. But Papagallo has the same energy as
you might
this
think,
guy.
oh, he's got the Wikipedia open. Not true. He played Darley in 1969's Justine. He played Guthrum
You just always
in
look.
1969's
You just always
Alfred
look
the
off
Great.
and to the right when you're remembering the films.
Yeah,
that
He
you love.
played Tom Pickle
as
in
giant white
1969's The
boxes are
Guru.
reflected off your glasses. You know,
Yeah.
you just like to open like blank Word documents to look at whenever you're remembering things. All right, so Catie thinks he was a cult leader. All right, Ethan, what about you?
Did you know, as I did, that Michael York's stepson is Rick McCallum? Did you know that? The producer of the Star Wars prequels?
I didn't. Thank you for sharing it.
Wow.
Just things that you know.
He's like the Bruce Spence of, whatever this is.
Who? Huh? So, I said that Papagallo, like they're a crew that is at an oil refinery in the middle of the desert. He's very clearly, he worked for the oil company before the war. That's why they're at the oil place.
Okay. Interesting logic. So we've got Ethan saying that Papagallo worked for a oil company, and we've got Catie saying bad cult leader who tried really, really hard. And once again, I think Catie is just tapping into where these people found themselves after the fall, like the essence of Papagallo, right?
That's true.
Didn't really know what he was doing, had a lot of good intentions.
Immediately got nerfed at, like, in the end of, like, remember he's like, Draco's
Well,
like,
he's
"We've
like, jump to
won.
me, jump to
We've
me.
won, jump to me," and then he just gets fucking smacked.
Thank God the feral kid didn't jump to him. He would have been immediately killed.
Yeah.
So, Catie, that is not correct. And Ethan, he was an executive of a petroleum company. You are right there. So,
Thank
Ethan,
God he
despite
At
multiple
least he
rules
died.
violations, despite multiple rules violations and general contemptiveness, you have tied the game at 7-7. Like, here it is. I'm about to tell you you've tied the game, and you're still kind of like in contempt. But it is anyone's game right now. Our next question is a numeric answer. So again, I'm going to ask you each to DM your answers to me, and it will go to the person who's closest to the correct answer. And the question is, how many lines of dialogue does Max have in Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior?
Wow.
How many lines of dialogue does Max have in Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior?
We're talking lines, not words.
So I'm interpreting a line as like basically like, I guess, a sentence. Someone else counted this. I looked this up. So it's like,
Yeah, like someone says something, then you say something that's a line.
Yeah.
And then it goes to someone
like
else.
an instance of speaking, basically.
Okay.
There's not any, I'll tell you this, he's not giving any soliloquies.
Yeah.
So, Ethan, let's have you go first.
I typed in my fake answer in public chat, apparently after Catie already answered hers. So that didn't work. I said 12 because I think that like the main thing he says throughout this is like, "Oh, I fulfilled my deal. I did my deal. Give me that gasoline." And I don't think they even call it gasoline back in Road Warrior. They hadn't figured out that lingo.
Yeah, that seems like that's a Morton Joe lingo.
Yeah, and so I think I said 12 because like he says like he has to talk to the gyro captain in terms of like, you're fucked. I got you, dude. He has to talk to the people to work out a deal for getting them the rig. He has to talk through like, I've got the rig, now let me drive the rig because I've decided I hate these people. And I don't think he says anything else for the rest of the film. So I said 12.
12, okay. Catie, what's your answer?
5, just because I think it's a nice number.
So we've got 12 and 5.
And also because I know that it's not like it's not like a he doesn't say a lot. Like that's like part of the Mad Max.
Yeah, and I agree with what Catie's saying. Like the reason why I think it's 12 is because there's also a few lines like with the feral child where he's like, "All right, get out of here." Like there's a few of those. I feel like that counts as one. So that's why I felt like 12 was more in line. But I don't know.
Number.
Well, so you both obviously clocked into that it's not many, right? And this will be something interesting for us to talk about. We get into Furiosa because Chris Hemsworth in Furiosa, I would be shocked if he doesn't say more words than any character in the history of Mad Max. And I'm including, like, if you added up all of Max's words across every film, right? Like, including repeating characters, right? Dementis has to be the talkiest character in the history of Mad Max, right? It's not a verbose series. So the correct answer is 16.
Wow, good job, Ethan.
Lines of dialogue. So Ethan was very close with 12.
Good job.
So we're going to give Ethan a point here. And Ethan, in spite of all the turmoil, has pulled ahead 8-7.
When you say pulled ahead, there's another question?
How
God
long is
damn it. He has another 6 questions ready to go until I lose. So let's get this.
I have 3 questions left. Would you like me to skip to the final question?
No, I mean, we're already here.
The other 2 are pretty quick. Okay.
Oh, no, let's do them. We got to do them all. Now you've locked in 3.
We're talking about lore, right? The next 2 are about nicknames.
Ooh, okay.
Characters in Mad Max, they get a lot of epithets, right? They get a lot of names. You don't really have a personal name. Like Mad Max is Max Rockatansky, but he's known to us as Mad Max, even though no one ever like points at him in a movie and is like, "Hey, it's Mad Max," right? We're in a legendary form of storytelling. So the next 2 questions are asking you to think about what the nicknames are or aren't for some of these characters. The first one is Furiosa. Which of the following was Furiosa's nickname in a Morton Joe's army? Very specifically, her nickname in a Morton Joe's army. The choices are Warrior Woman, Bag of Nails, Roadblock, and Master Blaster.
So I'm going to say Bag of Nails. Like Warrior Woman seems too on the nose. Roadblock also seems a bit on the nose because it's like she does shit on the Fury Road and that it's like, I don't know if she ever blocks the road though. I don't know why Roadblock would be it. So like Bag of Nails though, that just seems like that's something that's going to fuck you up if you play around with it too much. And I feel like if you fuck around with Furiosa, you're going to get fucked up. So I feel like Bag of Nails. Master Blaster, I'm almost certain is from the older Mad Max films. Having been a young boy in the 90s, having watched them and hearing a name Master Blaster, you don't forget a name like that.
Great Stevie Wonder song. Master
So
Blaster.
maybe I just heard it as a Stevie Wonder song. So who knows? But that's why I don't think it's Master Blaster. So I'm going with Bag of Nails.
Katie, what about you?
Okay. Well, as we know, I do think that Warrior Woman is too respectful. I don't think that they would have called her Warrior Woman. However, I was locked in on Bag of Nails. Mainly because it reminds me of Ball and Chain, and I feel like that would be the same misogynistic stuff that would I feel like that would continue into the apocalypse. So I don't think it's Roadblock or Master Blaster. I don't think I think that just reminds me of self-love, and I don't think that that's like where they were going with that.
I love
Do
how
you have-
your explanation is like, oh no, because they're probably still misogynistic. Whereas mine's like, oh yeah, they're probably like, yeah, she's dope. She's like a bag of nails. She'll fuck you up. So interesting discrepancy about how we both came to the same answer.
But now I'm wondering if it is Warrior Woman. So but I'd still say I think it's Bag of Nails.
And Katie was locked into Bag of Nails, so of course we're going to keep her on Bag of Nails per the rules. And it's a good thing too, because Bag of Nails is the correct answer.
Wow.
Nice.
So we're still we both get a point. It's Ethan is ahead 9-8. Yeah, so Warrior Woman is a character in Road Warrior. One of the she's literally like the character you would think is called Warrior Woman. She's like got the like gun on top of the one truck at the end, and she dies. Roadblock I made up. Master Blaster in Beyond Thunderdome is actually two characters. So Master is like a little person, and Blaster is like a developmentally disabled muscular person, and they like kind of like Voltron together. And there's no problems with any of that, and we'll move on to the next question. So the last question was asking you to guess what Furiosa's nickname was. Now I'm asking you to guess which one of these is not one of Max's nicknames. Max is a legendary figure. He has accrued many nicknames, many epithets throughout his time in the Wasteland. So the choices for this question are, which of the following is not one of Max's nicknames? Raggedy Man, the Warrior of the Wasteland, the Guy Who Keeps Mr. Dead in His Pocket, and the Man with No Name.
I think the not one of Max's nickname. I'm pretty sure I remember like Warrior of the Wasteland. I think I've heard that. The Guy Who Keeps Mr. Dead in His Pocket is like very specific. And I think it has to be a nickname for him. And the Man with No Name, he does have a name, but I think it's because like he doesn't speak. So I think Raggedy Man, because it makes me think of Raggedy Ann, which is a children which is a doll.
Yeah.
But who knows? So I don't think it's Raggedy Man. I think that's not his nickname.
All right, Katie with Raggedy Man. Ethan, what about you?
So I think that Mad Max is often raggedy. So someone looking at him, especially an Aussie, look at that Raggedy Man. I could see that. I could see that. The Man with No Name feels like a mythos sort of situation. So I could also see that being the case. The Guy Who Keeps Mr. Dead in His Pocket is just so descriptive that I don't think you came up with it. But if you did, kudos, because that is quite a nickname. The Warrior of the Wasteland, though, it seems almost too on the nose. He's the Road Warrior. So like I could see if in one of the later films they said that, like, oh, it's the Warrior of the Wasteland, but it feels too on the nose to me. So I'm gonna say the Warrior of the Wasteland is the incorrect one.
You know what the Warrior of the Wasteland reminds me of? Again, like a movie that I've never seen, Waterworld.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I think Waterworld kind of rips off Mad Max a little bit. It's like Mad Max on the water, maybe. We should do Waterworld sometime.
Wow, we should do Waterworld.
I would love to rewatch Waterworld.
Yeah.
I've never seen that movie.
So going through these, so you were both right that I didn't come up with the guy who keeps Mr. Dead in his pocket. I wish I had, but there's a reason I'm doing this.
Why? Where's that? What does that mean?
I think it refers to his gun.
Oh,
like his gun is Mr. Dead.
Okay. Oh, that makes total sense. Okay.
Yeah. He actually says, I think, in Beyond Thunderdome, they think that he is the kids who worship the plane think that he's Captain Walker, which is like they've made the captain of the plane that crashed into like a god, and their drawing of it looks like Mel Gibson. And he says to them, "I'm not Captain Walker. I'm the guy that keeps Mr. Dead in his pocket."
All right.
Wikipedia has added that to his list of nicknames, so you should be able to give yourself a nickname, but nonetheless. The Man with No Name, of course, is Clint Eastwood's nickname from
the good, the
Spaghetti
the
Western
bad.
trilogy, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the Dollars trilogy. But it is also a nickname for Mad Max.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
And I was hoping that was going to trip one of you up, and it didn't work. So
the thing is, this. I think maybe what was my saving grace is when I think of Fallout. It seems very Fallout-esque, and to me, Fallout is almost this like combination of Mad Max and the sort of spaghetti western sort of vibe. But so that saved me.
Yeah, I was hoping that was going to get one of you.
And guess what? I haven't seen that movie either.
All right.
So that means that one of you got the right answer. It was either Raggedy Man or the Warrior of the Wasteland. And the thing about the Warrior of the Wasteland is that this is a nickname from the Mad Max film series, but it is not a nickname for Mad Max.
What?
It is one of the epithets of Lord Humongous.
Oh, you're right. The Ayatollah of the...
He's the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. He's the Warrior of the Wasteland.
That's right.
The correct answer is the Warrior of the Wasteland. He is the Raggedy Man. So Ethan pulling ahead with a 10-8 lead. And there is only one question left. So this should be an unassailable lead for Ethan, except that there are a tremendous amount of points available on the board. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this question.
I bet you are.
So, in doing my research for this quiz, I found myself often looking, in addition to the Mad Max Wikia websites, looking at a very strange website known as Villains Wiki. And this is a Wikipedia website that is devoted to any character that has been defined as a villain. So it includes everything from Darth Vader to Dick Cheney and Vice. Right?
Nice.
If you're a villain, you're on this Villains Wiki. So they've had to come up with, because it's a wiki, it has to classify all the characters according to schema that fit all of the villains in cinematic history, and which is really my kind of shit. This was the kind of shit I was really into when I was 12. So the final question, because every villain on Villains Wiki in their sidebar thing, in addition to status, dead or alive, relatives, etc., it has a list of crimes. And we're going to do this in kind of back and forth fashion, and we will keep going for however long I decide. I think we'll do like
Catie wins.
We'll do like 5 rounds or something. 5 to 10 rounds. I'm gonna ask you.
10 rounds.
I'm gonna ask you to guess what crimes Warlord Dementis, so the Chris Hemsworth character from Furiosa that you both saw, so this is a fair question, committed according to Villains Wiki. And so to give you a example, just to give you a sense of what it's like, I'm going to tell you what the crimes committed by the Bullet Farmer were according to Villains Wiki. And neither of these crimes is one of the crimes for Dementis, just so you know. So neither of these are potential answers. So the crimes that the Bullet Farmer committed according to Villains Wiki.
TV timeout. Are these crimes in the before time or during?
I believe it's both.
Okay.
But I think these mostly we've seen in the film. I'm gonna say I think we've seen all of these in the film, or at least like if you watched Furiosa, you know he did all of these. None of this is coming from because Dementis doesn't have any lore beyond the film right now. So the Bullet Farmer, who, as you both know, is in charge of the Bullet Farm and dies in Mad Max Fury Road, killed off screen by Max. He just kind of wanders off and then comes back with like the Bullet Farmer's sash.
He's blinded, right?
He had been blinded previously, yeah, and then Max walks off and kills him. So, according to Villains Wiki, the crimes committed by the Bullet Farmer, he committed 2 crimes. Which feels pretty light for the Bullet Farmer. And those crimes were, and this is why I think it's only things we see in the film, because his crimes are attempted murder. I guess because we see him like shooting at Max and Furiosa, but he doesn't actually kill anybody. And his other crime is illegal use of firearms. And about this, I have some serious questions because I really don't know if these laws about firearms were in effect in Mad Max universe. But I think to answer your question, Catie, it seems like we're kind of applying the laws of our world to these films. So the question is essentially, if an editor of Villains Wiki, based on contemporary, essentially Western law, was accusing Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth, of crimes, what would those crimes be? And there are a total of 11 crimes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth, and when one of you gets one of the crimes, it is going to be off the board.
Okay.
So we will see how long it takes. We will see if we can accumulate all 11 crimes. But let's start with, because Katie's behind by 2 points, I think it's only fair to start with Catie. Catie, what is your first guess for one of the crimes that Warlord Dementis committed?
Child endangerment.
Child endangerment, I am not seeing on the list. Ethan.
Oh.
Let's be a bit more specific. Kidnapping.
Kidnapping is one of the crimes.
That's a good one.
Dementis accused of kidnapping by the editors of Villains Wiki. So Ethan
but
pulls
importantly,
ahead.
not child endangerment.
Listen, we're going. This is according to Villains Wiki. This is according to Villains Wiki. So, Catie.
Torture.
Torture is one of the crimes.
Yes.
So Catie has a 9th point. Fantastic. Ethan, next.
Trespassing.
That's a great guess. That's really in the spirit of what we should be guessing here. But trespassing is not on the list. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
Wow.
And I want to say some of these are maybe not necessarily illegal. They may be more like moral crimes. So just think broad. Think broad as well. But a lot of them are in this very legalistic tone. Catie.
Car theft.
Am I seeing theft? I'm actually not seeing any form of theft,
What?
which feels like an oversight. It feels like an
Wow.
oversight, but yeah, he has not been
Okay.
accused of theft by the folks over at Villains Wiki among his 11 crimes. Ethan.
I'm just gonna say like something like terroristic threats.
So he has been accused of terrorism, so I'm going to give you terrorism.
Okay.
That is one of his crimes. Catie.
Child abuse.
He definitely did do child abuse. I'm not seeing
Yeah.
child abuse on the list. I will say there are things there are also things much bigger scale than things you guys have guessed. There are also things much smaller scale than things you guys have guessed.
You know what?
Ethan.
I'd like to hold him accountable for ecocide. Someone's got to hold him accountable.
Here's the thing: he's been accused of pollution.
Hey! Wait,
Pollution
the
is
crime
one of
of
his
pollution?
crimes. Yeah.
They phrase it as pollution?
Yeah.
Okay,
This is the thing,
sure.
like this is what I'm trying to say is like some of these are very much like things you would actually like accuse someone of in court, and some of them are like more like vague ethical problems. So
Can you imagine if that was a crime in our legal system? Pollution?
Yeah, so pollution, Ethan,
Yeah.
you get.
Wow.
Catie.
Well, he didn't wear a lot of clothes, so I can't say that he had a crime of fashion. So I guess public nudity?
Public nudity is not not on here. I'm sorry. Ethan.
Ransom? Is that a crime? Let's say ransom.
Ransom. I'm not seeing that, no.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is Homegirl's mom. Matricide? Like, what is it?
Matricide! Matricide. He has been accused of matricide, which doesn't really make sense because it's not his mom.
What?
But that's what the folks at Villains Wiki think. So
Well, good on me. Good job.
yeah, so Catie on the board with matricide, closing the gap here. Ethan.
I don't know what the scale, like genocide. What I don't know what you want me to.
I'm gonna give you genocide. So it's mass murder.
Okay.
Is the crime. So I think genocide is along the same vibe. So yeah, mass murder. So yeah, I'll give you mass murder. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crimes left. So Catie, as we go to your guess, we're thinking of there's all sorts of crimes he could be committing, including ones apparently relating to eating.
What the fuck
Eating
is that?
crimes. Things you shouldn't eat. I don't know.
Did he not keep kosher? Like, I don't know.
Like, if there's like a thing you could eat that a lot of people would have a problem with, like a lot of people would have a problem with, for example. Cannibalism. Exactly, Catie. He has been accused of cannibalism by the editors of Villains
He
Wiki.
like drank the blood, I think, of the. It was like pure blood or something.
I don't even remember this. So like
Yeah.
but he has been accused of cannibalism. Ethan, you're up next.
Man. Trespassing?
Great guess. Great guess. But he has not been accused of trespassing by the
Joe
editors of
felt
Villains
that
Wiki.
he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as we continue, just doing this after every round, not doing it before any one particular person is answering or anything. We're just thinking about like what are the crimes he could have committed? Like, for example, like, there's a lot of people in vehicles in this film, and they're kind of like, they're going out there and they're not quite maybe they're like not following the rules of the road, for example. They're acting a little aggressively. I don't know what we might call that, but that seems to be possibly on the table. Anyway, it's Katie's turn. Catie, any guesses about Dementus's crimes?
Aggressive driving.
Reckless driving, absolutely. Catie closing the gap.
Wow.
Ethan, your turn just to close out the round, and then we'll do a little like round reset.
Aggravated assault.
not seeing aggravated assault. So another round comes to a close. In this round, we're maybe thinking about, like, I don't know, like, you don't want to mess with fire. That's definitely not something you want to do. Catie, arson, absolutely. Catie, closing the gap. Only a 14 to 13 lead. Dementis has been accused of arson.
They're just coming to me so quickly now.
By the folks at Villains Wiki. And it's crazy because there are 2 crimes left, and Catie is only down by 1 point. So we're really coming down to the final seconds here. Ethan, we have 2 crimes left. Can you guess either of the crimes? Which may or may not have to do with fire, which was the theme of the round, but I can't promise that extended beyond arson.
Let's be clear. He had an uncontrolled burn.
Not seeing that on the list.
Well, that's wrong. Give me a point.
I think that was under arson. I think they had that. That's under
not
the arson
arson.
Charge.
He's not destroying anything. He lit the fire around Gastown.
I will take this up with the folks
of uncontrolled
Villains
burn.
Wiki. I will take this up with the folks of Villains Wiki. They may have just run out of space because he's committed so many crimes. Yeah. So, but not all crimes. Some crimes are political. Sometimes you are, you're trying to engage in activities that we've seen people try to engage in recently. Certain times of the month, you're still getting over your New Year's hangover. It's been a few days, but it's maybe, I don't know, it's been like 5 days since New Year's. You wake up, you check the news. People are out there committing crimes. It's happening. Political crimes that people are committing out there in the world. Catie,
I'm locked in.
Or there's other crimes on the.
You don't need to keep saying things, Devin. You don't need to keep saying things. Catie, you have an answer or no? Because I'm locked in.
A coup?
A coup. That sounds very close to attempted usurpation to me. There's 1 crime left. And I got to be honest, for me, as someone who unfortunately has voted for the Democratic candidate for president in many presidential elections, it's one of the things that I get most disturbed by when I turn on the news and I see people doing it. It really chills me to my bone, and it makes me feel unsafe in the city I live in and in the cities many people live in. It's, I think, the worst crime that Dementis committed, and I denounce him for it.
So
mass murder, whatever. Attempted usurpation, who cares? But this crime, this is a really bad one.
Looting.
Property destruction. Sounds like looting to me. Catie with 15 points and the win. And there's nothing more to discuss here.
Wow.
So just to review the 11 crimes of Warlord Dementis.
Yeah.
Mass murder, matricide, pollution, cannibalism, property destruction, reckless driving, arson, attempted usurpation, kidnapping, torture, and terrorism. And Dementis, we charge you with all of these crimes, we convict you of all of these crimes, and we sentence you to being made into a tray. And that's Vox Populi, baby. All right, so we're back, and Catie is the rightful warrior of the wasteland, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. Ethan is Smeg. Ethan is the Jism Lancer. And I'm just the toady. I'm just the guy that says what everybody is. And so for the last part of the pod, we're going to talk about Furiosa, and we're not going to spend too long on it. It's out in theaters. Not a lot of people have seen it. But I think there's a few things we want to talk about. We want to talk about the movie itself, and then I think we want to spend some time talking about like this movie kind of being a box office bomb. It has so far only made $119 million to a $168 million budget, which is not a huge budget.
I make that in a week.
And I think we could also talk a little bit about the whole, just like the discourse machine of like every movie's individual box office performance being treated as like a
the end of movies or the
beginning,
the reemergence of movies. Yeah.
But first off, just like, so it's Furiosa. And again, no real reason to plot summarize this movie because it's like you saw Mad Max Fury Road, you saw Furiosa in it. This is the story of how Furiosa becomes Furiosa. And how does it happen? It's kind of essentially probably what you might have guessed. Like, you're not going to guess every detail, but it's like, okay, yeah, we know she's from this place. We know she got in with some stuff. There's a lot of elements of this plot that if you apply any amount of scrutiny to, for example, like, Immortan Joe has recently lost track of a full-life girl, and then the amount of years later it would take for that girl to become a woman, a full-life woman has re-entered his army as a member of a war ring. Why doesn't he? It's like the classic, like, I showed my kid the Star Wars prequels, and he's like, why is, or I showed my kid A New Hope, and he's like, why is Obi-Wan pretending not to know who C-3PO and R2-D2 are, you know, kind of prequel problems.
Yeah.
But putting all that, not necessarily aside, but only if it's relevant to your takes, what did you guys think of Furiosa?
Well, I'll say that I enjoyed it. It was still fun. I went in not expecting to have another Fury Road, which I think helped because you can't really have it's very much a companion to Fury Road, where Fury Road is just action from minute one to the end. I think having said that, the first half you sort of alluded to there, Devin, like you don't really need that first half. All it does is kind of set up Chris Hemsworth's character of Demento, what is it? Dementus, Dr. Demento, and he, like
Dr. Jailgood.
And he's great, and so I enjoyed a lot of that. But it's also unnecessary in that what you said, Devin, like nothing happens with the fact that, oh yeah, she was a child that was brought in to essentially raise children for Immortan Joe, and then she escaped from that, and I guess that provides some reason why then eventually in a movie that is not this, she rescues the wives and brings them out. But it was not super necessary to the plot, I felt, other than setting up a future film that is not this film. But overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the action pieces were really nicely done. And I'll just say it again. I think Chris Hemsworth as Dementus was fantastic. He was the highlight of the film for me.
Catie, what about you?
It wasn't my cup of tea. I think I didn't really go into it. First of all, I don't know if anybody who's listening to the pod knows this, but I have never seen a Mad Max film before. Besides like the Tom Hardy. And even when I say that I've seen that Mad Max film, I mean it very loosely.
Well, yeah, you refer to it as the Tom Hardy, so
right.
He should start going by the Tom Hardy. It's be like his professional name.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy. It's the Tom Hardy one.
It's like the University of Ohio.
What you just did was very disrespectful. I don't think that was even intentional, but that was such a sick burn.
Fuck you, OSU.
No, it was intentional.
Where are these Buckeyes from? The University of Ohio sounds about right.
So I really I thought that the movie itself, like honestly, it was, and I don't mean this in like a weird way, but it was a beautiful film. like, I mean, I think that it was beautifully shot. I think that, like, it was very well crafted, like, in terms of, like, the, like, cinematography of it and, like, the editing. I think that it was a very well done film. I think where I had some, like, just perhaps not really knowing the series and not understanding, like, the movies that had come before it, I had my like, I was questioning a lot of things that, like, I don't like, I'm like, "Well, if that was a half, like, of, like, where do they get all these women? Where do they come from? Why are the babies also, like, why are they not, like, staying alive?" And so I don't know, I just had, like, a lot of questions, but I don't think that that was the film's fault. I think that, like, I'm used to, as Ethan says, I has Marvel rotten like, has Marvel did Marvel rot your brains? And you
Wow.
need to have
Yeah, yeah.
excessive stories on top of stories on top of stories and backstories, which probably perhaps it did.
Hmm. But
Sure.
you make me consider though, Katie, that like, and I liked this film a lot, right? And I think it was like you said, it was a beautiful film. I don't think it's as beautiful as Fury Road. There's obviously a lot more CGI than Fury Road, but like for example, like in the one war rig battle where you're really like seeing the way the war rig operates with all the little parts of it, that when they're fighting the Octoboss,
Yeah.
and it's like they've got the like it reminded me of like the Indiana Jones stuff at Disney World where you like see the stunts going where like you really see
Yeah.
they have like just like the poles they swing on and stuff, and it's like so cool seeing the camera just pan down, and you have such a sense of space. You really understand how the war rig works as a
Mhm.
vehicle, and where the different places on it are and the way people move around it was just like that sequence was particularly, I thought, incredible, right? But it does
Right.
run into some of what I think we call prequel problems. And I think part of this is that like Fury Road didn't try to have a plot, right? And Furiosa tries to have more of a plot than like Fury Road has the plot of just like we're trying to get away, and
Right.
there's backstory, there's implications, right? But Furiosa is telling an origin story, and I think part of this has to do with like how the Furiosa script was written. So like part of the reason the Furiosa script was written, the original version of it, right, is that they were one of the problems that happens with Mad Max that's kind of like metatextual is they always try to make these Mad Max movies in Australia and they plan it out, and then there's like they're like, oh, we're gonna film it in this place where it never rains, and then there's like unprecedented rainfall and they have to like delay the films by years. So like Fury Road's actually the only one that wasn't filmed in Australia. It was filmed in in Namibia, and because of this rain problem. But they had some delays associated with it, and they used those delays, I think, to flesh out the backstory of some of the characters, and one of them was Furiosa. And so they essentially wrote a script to give the Furiosa character in Fury Road a backstory. And I think sometimes this film, you can kind of feel that. You can kind of feel that this was like a script that was written to explain something and not a script that was meant to be like a standalone film. And it just kind of has this ultimate problem, which is especially once a Morton Joe shows up, because you're like, well, I know a Morton Joe's not dying. I know she's not escaping. I know she's going to end this film working for a Morton Joe in some capacity, right? Where like it just kind of has that same problem that like many prequels have of like it can't build narrative tension because we know who's going to live, who's going to die, where people are going to end up. And I think if it had had a little less plot, we could have more easily forgotten about those problems, but it is very plotty. So you're constantly being asked to care about what happens to Furiosa, even though you know what's going to happen to Furiosa.
Yeah, I think you're spot on in that it almost feels like you're saying one of these movies where the goal is eventually putting people into the correct places for a subsequent film, whereas it would have been much cooler as a 98-minute film with a young Furiosa on the Fury Road, maybe with that some Mad Max-esque character driving the car, and she learns to be like, oh, this guy's cool, but then other people suck ass, and at the end of it, she gets picked up by Immortan Joe. You're like, oh shit, she's getting picked up by Immortan Joe, but we know where this is going to lead to, as opposed to this, which is like, here's all these pastiches of the life of Furiosa, and I don't
absolutely,
we don't need to see
yeah.
that.
I think we could like have the first part of the film, and I actually really like the first part of the film. Like, I think the actress playing her mom is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I really like it, like, on its own as a sequence. That entire very first section, I kind of lose it in the middle, where like once she's abducted by Dementis, but we aren't to like Anya Taylor-Joy yet. And then once she's kind of working for Immortan Joe, it just kind of becomes like, okay, we're kind of on the rails at this point.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Immortan Joe so early in this movie. I would like to start later and maybe get flashbacks to like that early stuff, like in the sense of like when, like, you know, I don't know, when her like trauma's being triggered or something, and you're seeing the way like in Fury Road you see these flashbacks to Max with this like these dead people, especially this dead child that are speaking to him, and like we still don't know who those people are. That's for this other film that we'll see if George Miller ever gets to make or not, or does make. And then yeah, I like the idea of just like she should just be like running the war rig with Praetorian Jack, maybe as like an independent contractor or something. like you know, we don't need to get so into the Citadel and the Immortan Joe thing, because part of it is also seeing the Citadel, like this less visually stunning version of it that is more CGI heavy, is not super satisfying. But like when we're on the war rig and we're doing a lot of practical effects, it's fantastic, right? So
yeah,
I wish we had just kind of like, we have the prequel stuff happening, but I wish the core of the film was just like Fury Road, like Furiosa doing stuff on the road, right? Like that was what the film was about. And then we just had beginning stuff and end stuff that's providing the connective tissue. Because then you would come out being like, oh, okay, this explains stuff. But the main thing that we came out with was like just like seeing cool Furiosa stuff. But I do want to talk about what I think the film does really well, and what maybe that I don't know if it would have done as well if it did follow these kind of suggestions we're throwing out there, which is Dementis, who, as I said, is like the talkiest character in the history of Mad Max, which shouldn't work, but I thought really did. I thought Hemsworth was great. I loved seeing Hemsworth. It just felt like he was taking like the hottest shower in the history of showers, of like just like rubbing Thor off himself and just being like, I'm Australian, by the way. Just so everyone knows, I'm Australian. I'm wearing a weird nose for some reason. But he's also so talky. What did you guys think of Dementis and like his speeches, his verbosity? He's like the most like soliloquizing character we've ever had in Mad Max.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was fantastic. I thought all of his lines, he had that kind of old-timey Aussie accent that I think he said he based on his grandfather. And just like the diction, the tonality, I think, is what really stands out to me with that, where he sort of like does like sort of the upspeak at times, and it's a fantastic performance. He seemed like he was chewing it up, which is what you sort of have to do. And to me, it stood in this stark contrast to a lot of other folks that work with George Miller, where they're like, wow, I engaged in this process. It was a baptism of fire, and I came out a different person. Whereas Chris Hemsworth was like, oh yeah, we got to go out out there and have a great time. I got to go do explodey things. It was great. And it just seems like he was loving it in a way that all these other actors, like George Miller's incredible, but I feel like with Fury Road, a lot of the actors were like, I'm doing a movie with George Miller, and I know it's going to be an experience. I'm going to really delve into this. Whereas you just need to be like, oh, we're going out here in the Australian wilderness, or I guess where's in Namibia, like this wilderness, and I'm just gonna have a great time. We're gonna make a movie. We're gonna make one of them films. So I feel like Chris Hemsworth understood the assignment in ways that other people who were just happy to work with George Miller kind of flubbed it in the seriousness with which they took it.
Or unhappy. Like a lot of actors were, I think, not particularly happy with the way Fury Road was going. They liked the end result, but that was a film that barely had a script, right? It's like he wrote this via like storyboards, and it was like I think people were making, and they were like, we don't understand how this is going to be a film. Like we're just being told to like drive over these sand dunes. Yeah, Katie, what were you thinking?
Well, and also, I mean, I have a few thoughts. I can stay on Dementis for a quick second, but really quickly about like the different experiences. It's interesting to me in terms of like vocally, like the people who have like been very vocal about like the baptism of fire or how difficult of a film it was have both been women. Charlize Theron has like talked about how awful her experience was or like how difficult her experience was. Anya Taylor-Joy has said that it was the most like lonesome that she has ever felt on like working on a set or on a movie. And I think it just is like very interesting, like their understanding and like their experiences of the film versus that of like Chris Hemsworth or perhaps Tom Hardy. So
I think Tom Hardy was pretty miserable too, though, is my understanding.
Perfect.
Like he was refusing to leave his trailer for
Oh,
large segments of time.
Which it's like, is it because on one hand, is it because it's like actors are choosing to work with this director, right? Because it is a boon for their career versus Chris Hemsworth, who's just happy to have a job after Thor, right? Like, but in terms of Dementis, something that I really like not caught me off guard, but like I really tuned into was how much of like, because you talk about like how verbose he is, but I think it's because it works for me because whereas like Immortum Joe and the rest of like the leaders, I feel like they're more secretive about like their plans. He truly is like he is spewing out everything to the people that he's with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he really like in a bunch of his speeches, he is about like stick it to the guys, like stick it to the man. We got to work together. This is like, and so you're looking at this and you're like, I agree with you, but also like and I think it's like such an interesting the speeches that he gives are so interesting because they are so unlike the other leaders of the Citadel. And I think that you have to have that juxtaposition to make it work and to make him like almost an endearing figure.
Yeah, I'd be curious, Devin, what your thoughts are, because it's interesting. You have the one initial speech from Dementis, like you said, Katie. I think it's populist. It's like, hey, hey, y'all realize if you rose up, you could have as much water as you want. Like you don't actually have to deal with Immortan Joe. And I'm on your side, and I'm going to help you break free of these chains. But of course, all of the warrior boys or whatever are fully indoctrinated and willing to kill themselves for Immortan Joe, who they think is a god. But of course, Dementis is not a man of the people. Like his whole deal is he just wants to sort of get his place in the sun. He revels in wanting to be one of the big bosses of the wasteland.
Yeah, so
yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, I want to zoom out a little bit and then I'll zoom back into Dementis because I think this speaks to really what I actually think the entire Mad Max franchise is about in some way, which this isn't a franchise we think about for its writing necessarily, right? Like we talked about how like Max only has 16 lines in Road Warrior. It's a visual franchise, right? It's about like effects and action sequences. But I actually think on like a thematic level, the Mad Max series is largely about language. And it's about what happens to language in a world in which the social structures, the economic structures, the political structures that sort of like control language fall away. So like, you know, people start talking weird, right? People start saying guzzling. People start doing these other things, right? And language actually starts to fall away. So I think like language's absence from the Mad Max world actually like speaks to its importance in general, right? And so with the War Boys, it's really interesting because the War Boys don't really talk. They mostly just say one thing, which is right before they die, they say, "Witness me," and then they kill themselves in a blaze of glory. And the most important thing for the War Boys is to be seen, right? They want to become images in people's memory. The most important thing for Dementis is to be heard. Dementis is this kind of like residual figure in the Mad Max world who wants to maintain this connection to language, right? He walks around with the history man who has all these words tattooed to his body, right? And I think he's a really interesting juxtaposition with Furiosa because Furiosa, we start the film with her as a little girl, and the idea is she has had like a life up to this point. She has a kind of like sister or quasi sister. She has a mom. She has like kind of like a nice life, right? She has this idea of a self that gets stolen from her. And the way she tries to preserve that self throughout the film is mostly by silence, right? She becomes this kind of silent, stoic figure. In her idea, she's going to preserve some kind of essence that she used to have. And I think that's actually kind of like a faulty approach ultimately, because obviously in Fury Road, when she tries to go to the green place, it doesn't really exist. What she has to do is create something new. She has to move forward. Dementis, I think, is actually onto something, albeit in a perhaps a misguided fashion, right? But he's trying to become someone through talking. So I think whenever he does these speeches in the movie, right, he's like, I don't think it's just that he's like bullshitting when he talks to the War Boys about revolution. I actually think he's almost trying that idea out. He's like, hey, what about this? This is something we could do. Like, what if we had a revolution? And it doesn't work, right? But I think he's trying to make himself into somebody, and because he wants to be remembered.
Because it makes me think early on when they have the one the powder bomb goes off and he's covered in red. He just like keeps saying like, "Oh, I'm Dementis the Red now."
Yeah,
like that's like
right?
Yeah, he just like keeps that. And then later on, he's like, "Oh, look what you made me do! I'm Dementis the Black now," and because he's like covered in the oil, or he's like you. Yeah, so he's trying to craft his own story of his own arc.
And Smeg picks up on it immediately. Smeg's like, Dementis the Red has offered you absolution, or whatever he says, and so like in a series that is in a franchise that's largely about myth making, I think Dementis is this version of a character who is noticed that. And is trying to do it proactively. And that doesn't mean it works, but I think he, in a weird way, is like the skeleton. I think he, in a weird way, is the skeleton key to unlock what is lurking behind all the other characters in the story, right? In the stories, like a Morton Joe, right? He doesn't talk much, but he has this entire linguistic cult around him, from terminology like guzzling to like these linguistic ceremonies like saying "witness me" before you die, right? Even though the thing you want is to be seen, what gives your death meaning is that you said "witness me" before it happens.
Yeah, and it just seems like Dementis is so self-aware of like Mad Max as a mythos, Mad Max as essentially these stories that are being told, because his whole thing when he's talking to Furiosa at the end, he's like, yeah, we're really the same, you and I, we're kind of the same deal. It's just we're going to go about it different ways. And so it's almost this recognition that the prevalence of the story versus what's actually happening, and kind of this flattening of like, who's really good and bad in this situation is kind of irrelevant to the story that's being told.
Yeah. It's right. Dementis says, right, in that final confrontation, right, all that matters is, can you make it epic? Right? That's what it's ultimately about. But whether George Miller made it epic or not, audiences don't seem to agree, right? People are not going to see this movie. So, we're a bit over time, but thoughts about why this movie has been the bomb it is? Because, like, as we've said, like, Mad Max Fury Road has become canonized as, like, one of the great movies of the 21st century. Not even just one of the great action movies. But Furiosa has been a bomb. And this has also led to all this kind of annoying discourse about, like, is this the end of movies or whatever? But do you guys have thoughts about, like, why this has happened? Is this actually surprising? Was just too much expectation being put on a prequel to a movie from 9 years ago? What do y'all think?
Well, I mean, if you just like look at like the data, right? Like people aren't going to the movie theater. I think that there might be a lot of people like myself where this may not be an escapist film, right? So like if you are choosing to go to the movies, if you're choosing at this point, that's a luxury, right? So for a lot of people, going to the movies is a luxury. And is this taking you into escapism? Or is it just like the inevitable of the future? So,
well, that makes it less fun. Yeah, I think that to me, I think of the MCU and a lot of the films are like, well, people will surely be excited to see what the new Captain America is going to be all about in the next film that he's in, when like we're now so many degrees of separation from the original franchise of what interested people. I don't think people were particularly bought into Furiosa, besides the fact that like she's a cool character. Like, were people like, I need to know where she came from. I need to know her motivations. Like, that wasn't really a motivating factor, I think, for people. And the great thing about the original Mad Max films is they're kind of self-contained. It's never about like, let's explain more and more about Mad Max. Like, you explain more and more about the world, but the character matters not a whole lot. They're just sort of fit them into the story of the larger context, because they're supposed to be a mythic figure anyways. And so I could see the appeal of a Furiosa prequel just not appealing to as wide an audience. So it's kind of like, I feel like you could have had a better film if you didn't call it Furiosa Mad Max series.
Yeah, I think like there's a few issues, right? Like, I think prequel is just there's always just kind of be an issue with a prequel, right? I think the fact that like, yeah, it isn't that self-contained movie, even though it's gotten great reviews, right? I think like, it's been 9 years. I think Furiosa was really popular as a character after Fury Road, but I think it was really linked to the Charlize Theron performance. And I think Anya Taylor-Joy is great in this movie, but I don't think Furiosa was a character where people were like, oh, I can't wait to see another actor take on the mantle of Furiosa, like it's like the fucking Joker or like Hamlet or something.
Yeah.
I think like, honestly, I'm a little disappointed in George Miller for this, because George Miller, known for not giving a fuck, right? Being like, I'm going to recast Bruce Spence to play like a pilot again. I wish he had just been like, I don't give a shit if Charlize Theron looks too old to be in a prequel. It's a Charlize Theron Furiosa movie. Who cares when it takes place, right? And then maybe at the very last second, like we were saying, a Morton Joe shows up, and for a second you have to be like, wait, this is a prequel? But yeah, how does that make sense? And George Miller's like, shut up, and then you know what I mean? But I also would say like, this is the lowest grossing Memorial Day weekend since 1995 in general, right? And the other films were Garfield movie, something called Sight, whatever the hell that is. I think If, which was like a disaster. And I also want to say, I think there's something to be said about like, people will sometimes be like, oh, dodge, release your movies when other movies aren't out, like to dodge like being bludgeoned by like everyone going to see Iron Man 4 or whatever. I think there's something to be said for like when good movies are out, people get excited about going to the movies, and then they're like, oh, going to the movies is great. We should go to the movies. When you're looking at the movies and it's like, oh, and the Garfield movie, I think, is also a prequel. And I think when you look at the sequel, when you look at it's about like how like Jim got Garfield, I think. Or John, sorry, how John got Garfield. And I think like when you look at the box office and you're just like, you're not a Mad Max fan, but you're just like a random person looking to go to the movies, let alone a family looking to go to the movies, and you're like, oh, there's 2 prequels out. And there's a lot of orange in both of their posters. You might not be that excited about going to the movies. But I also think we don't need to act like this means like movies are over, because the Mad Max movies have actually never been huge grossers.
Right.
They're also like, they're not very expensive, which has helped them compared to like, like a superhero blockbuster. But I think the fact that like we look to every release as being like, oh, tell us whether or not movies are over, is also part of the problem here, right?
Yeah.
I also feel like so much of that conversation too is on American cinema. And like if you look like globally across, like Challengers didn't make domestically a lot, but like globally it did. It performed like fairly well, and certainly in line with like what we would like expect at this point of like where like the economy is. But people went out to see it because it was like a fresh new thing that they hadn't seen before. And it was like, I also too, I don't necessarily feel as if, and I know, I'm sure that this is not our dude's thing, but I also
I think
don't
it was
think that it
terribly
was like
marketed.
necessarily like very well marketed. And I think that's a big thing, is that like, if you look at Challengers, I mean, there was so much going into it, and like so much marketing going into people to see it. So I mean,
Yeah.
is it a bomb? I don't think that.
Yeah. Also, I'm just gonna throw out there that Furiosa cost $168 million to make versus 4.5 million for Mad Max 2. So it's like 37 times the cost. And
Well, there's
I
some
just
inflation there, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, so maybe it's the same, but it's not. And so I think like this idea that we have to keep spending $200 million to make these films is just it's not that movies are dying. It's not that the blockbuster even is dying. It's that it's so bloated within the structure of Hollywood that it's like, just have George Miller make a film for $50 million in the Mad Max universe, and it will be the best film I've seen in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing, right? Like, just to bring up another movie from last year, but Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was considered a bomb. It made $384 million at the box office, right? An Indiana Jones film in 2023 making almost $400 million, that seems pretty good to me, but it cost $387 million, right? And it's like, figure out how to, here's the thing, if you make Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny for a fraction of that, it's actually going to be a better movie. Trust me.
Yeah.
But
and you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Hotel Transylvania cost $85 million to make.
We've talked about the Hotel Transylvania moneymakers on this podcast.
And it brought in $360 million. So, like, you can still bring in those numbers. So just do better.
And I would also say, read the marketing. Like, Challengers was marketed in a fashion of like, hey, you don't know what this is, but you're going to have a great time at the movies if you go and see this. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, was marketed as like, aren't you thankful that we deigned to release this movie for you, you piece of shit? Like, we're not even going to tell you anything about it. Here's some slow motion of Chris Hemsworth looking at you. Like, just be thankful. You know you love this movie. This is the biggest movie of all time, right? And it was like arrogant marketing, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But nonetheless, it's a pretty good movie. And so let's put on the pants for Furiosa. We are going to rate Furiosa in terms of Joe Pantoliano in Italian. So, Ethan, why don't you go first, and then we'll go over to our guest of honor, Catie. How are you rating Furiosa in terms of Joe Pantoliano?
You know, I think much like the Mad Max series, I don't want to overthink this. I'm simply giving this 3 out of 5 Joe Pantolianos because it wasn't as good as Fury Road, but I don't think it was trying to be another Fury Road. It was a letdown in a few ways, but I really enjoyed Dementis and also just the actual chase scenes on Fury Road with Octo Daddy or whatever his name is. He like with his little octopus thing like that.
Okay,
that was
so
just
instead
like,
of saying the Autoboss, I should have said the Octo Daddy. That was my mistake.
There you go. So, like he clearly has still got it. I still watched those scenes and was like, how the fuck did they even film this? This is awesome. So I got to give it above average, but still a 3 out of 5 for me because it's like, let's just keep doing these fun things. We don't need to, don't worry about the character. The character is you can just call the character Mad Maxine and like have it be a new person. Like we care about the tale. It's a mythic figure. I don't want to know more about Max or Furiosa. I don't want to know more about these people. I just want to have a new myth. So
yeah. Catie, what about you?
I give it 6 out of 10.
Very different from my 3 out of 5.
No, you get to use
you didn't
whatever
tell me
scale
what
you
scale
want.
we had to use. Well, I mean, you did tell me. Well, no, you didn't say. You just said what units of measure. So, yeah, I think like it was fine. I went to the bathroom twice. It was again very well made.
All right.
It was cool. I'm when I was talking about the escapism, it is me. I am the person looking for escapism and not.
And there were a few times where you were looking for some escapism from the film.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little higher on this film than you guys, I think. I thought it was great, right?
Okay.
I also think there are lots of problems with it. So it's like, I think I'm probably inflating my score a little bit because it's like, it's got the prequel problems. I think it's a little too plotty. It doesn't look as good as Fury Road. But at the same time, I'm just like, I watch it and I'm just like, man, who makes movies like this but George Miller? Like the exhilaration I feel during the heights of this movie are so high. And also just some of the little moments, like the fact that like Jack and Furiosa's kind of like relationship, which we don't even really like fully understand, like the biggest physical expression of it we see is them like touching foreheads, which seems to be like the thing they do in the green place, right? Like that we've also seen in Fury Road. That's like the greeting, and like I find that like oddly touching. And also even the fact that like when he dies, it kind of happens like he's like in the background. It's just sort of happening, and like there isn't this big exploitative like, oh, I'm crying over Jack kind of scene, right? It's just like little moments, little touches like that, I think just like really separate what he does. So I'm gonna give this 4 Joe Pantolianos, but I'm gonna give it a very specific one because, as much of a blast as I had, there are a lot of problems, and so the 4 Joe Pantoliani I'm giving are the Joe Pantoliano from this interview about the Matrix that I found, which was of course also filmed in Australia. And hence, many of the Australian actors in it. And so this article states, quote, "The Matrix was somewhat fun," end quote, for Pantoliano. Quote, "But we were in Australia for 6 months," end quote. So that, it is a Joe Pantoliano of ambivalence, but I am going to give the film 4 of them. Four Joe Pantolianos that are having a little bit of fun, but don't want to be in Australia for 6 months.
Wow. I'm right there with you, Joe.
Which even Australians aren't seeing this film. It's really crazy. Like, I know an Australian who loves the Mad Max movies and saw my rating of it on like Instagram when I posted my Letterboxd score, and they were like, "Oh, should I see it?" And I was like, "You are an Australian who loves Mad Max movies, and you're not going to see this movie? What is everybody doing this weekend?" But anyway,
it's not a real country. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Thank you both for going through the Mad Max world with me. Thank you, Catie, our reigning Vox Populi champion, for winning the game with poise and with honor, and while following all of the rules.
And with a handicap.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thank you so much for having me on here. I try really hard to bring to make it classy, to really like bring up the the vibe,
we really apprate that
overall feeling of the pod.
How much Ethan has devoted himself to doing the opposite of all those things. But thank you also, listeners, for tuning into You're Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You. Find us on Twitter at YourTallPod and Instagram at YourTallPod. Find Ethan at Mathisippy. Find me at Stale Cooper. And keep circling that drain. Do you actually want to say, Ethan, do you want to say "and keep circling that drain" so you can kind of, it isn't just my voice at the end?
Sure.
All right, just let's get it clean thing.
And keep circling that drain.
All right, we did it.